President Davis, we are live. You may start the meeting.
Good evening and welcome to the May 20th regular board meeting of the Capistrano Unified School District. The meeting is now in session. The time is 5:02 p.m. Mrs. Swanky, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Castellanos is absent. Trustee Pritchard is absent. Trustee Zollinger.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Bullicus.
Here.
Trustee Davis.
Please note staff has revised the presentation for items 12C1.
We got her.
Oh, trustee, I'm here. CUSD Cares Wellbeing Update Year 3. A copy is available in the back of the room and on the board's agenda website. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a first trustee Bullicus and trustee Adams. Mrs. Swanky, do we have any requests to speak for the adoption of the agenda?
We have none.
Trustees, we have no requests. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries 502 to adopt the agenda. Ms. Swanky, before the board recesses to closed session, are there any requests to speak for a closed session agenda item?
We have none.
Thank you. The board will now recess to closed session to address the following agenda items. Student readmission, 1 case. Student expulsions, 4 cases. Conference with legal counsel anticipated litigation, 1 case. Conference with legal counsel anticipated litigation, 3 cases. Conference with legal counsel existing litigation, 6 cases. Conference with labor negotiators, CUEA, CSEA, Teamsters, CUMA, and unrepresented employees. Liability claims, 2 cases. Public employee dismissal, discipline, release, 1 case. Public employee employment appointment, assistant superintendent, fiscal services, and principal elementary school. Public employment and evaluation of performance, superintendent. The board will now recess to closed session.
President Davis, you may start the meeting.
Good evening and welcome to the May 20th regular board meeting of the Capistrano Unified School District. The meeting is now in session. The time is 6:03 p.m. Mrs. Swanky, can you please call the roll?
Student Board Member Hanson. Trustee Castellanos.
Here.
Trustee Pritchard.
Present.
Trustee Zollinger.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Bullicus.
Here.
Trustee Davis.
Here. And the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Renee Polk Johnson. Thank you, Renee. Ms. Swanky, can you please report out from closed session?
On agenda item 4A, student readmission, trustees voted 7-0 to approve staff recommendation on the following case. Case number 2024-024. On agenda item 4B, student expulsions, trustees voted 7-0 to approve staff recommendations on the following cases. Case numbers 2026-017, 2026-018, 2026-019, 2026-020. On item 4C, conference with legal counsel anticipated litigation, trustees voted 7-0 to approve staff recommendation on the following case, resolution number 252614C. On agenda item 4D, conference with legal counsel anticipated litigation, trustees voted 7-0 to approve staff recommendations on the following cases. ADR case numbers 2026-0326, 2026-0408, and 2026-0414. On agenda item 4E, conference with legal counsel existing litigation, trustees voted 7-0 to approve staff recommendations on the following cases. OAH case numbers 2025-100-948, 2025-120-067, 2025-120-588, 2026-010712, 2026-010866, and 2026-040462. On agenda item 4F, conference with labor negotiators, no reportable action. On agenda item 4G, liability claims, trustees voted 7-0 to approve staff recommendations to reject the following claims. Rejection of government claim number 251450 and claim number 241450 On agenda item 4H, public employee discipline dismissal release, trustees voted 7-0 to approve staff recommendation on the following case. Resolution number 2526-13C, a settlement agreement with a certificate employee whereby they agreed to a 10-day suspension and the last chance agreement. On agenda item 4I, public employee employment appointment, trustees voted 7-0 to approve staff recommendation to appoint Dr. Wendy Poffenberger, Assistant Superintendent Fiscal Services, effective July 1, 2026. And trustees voted 7-0 to approve staff recommendation to appoint Shirley Poster, Principal, Concordia Elementary School, effective July 1, 2026. And on agenda item 4H, public employment and evaluation of performance of superintendent, no reportable action. This concludes my report.
Excuse
you.
me, so just one point of clarification. When I was listening to the rejection of government claim number 2514501, right? You did say.
01,
Okay,
correct.
thanks, just to make sure I heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now moving on to public comment. The total time for public comment shall be 20 minutes. Mrs. Swanky, do we have any requests to speak for non-agenda items?
We do. 1 second, please.
Thank you.
We have 11 speakers, so it would be 1 minute for each speaker.
Thank you.
I will call the students first. We have Elena Garcia, Morgan Ball, and Alesso Kolb. Ask you to go. I'm sorry. Elena?
Yes. Hello, my name is Eliana Garcia, and I am a 10th grader at Aliso Niguel High School. It has come to my attention that students who are part of extracurricular activities such as sports or theater are not able to take advantage of the College Career Advantage courses offered by Capistrano Unified School District. Is there any way that these students are able to have an equal access to these courses? Sorry. That's all I have. Sorry.
All right, next speaker is Morgan Ball.
Good evening. My name is Morgan, and I'm a 9th grader in this district. I'm here because I believe schools are supposed to be a place where students feel safe learning, asking questions, and thinking for themselves. But lately, politics in the classroom has made it really hard. I've sat in classes where political opinions are presented so strongly that it feels like students are expected to agree. When teachers speak about certain beliefs as if there's only one right opinion, it can make students like me feel unheard and pressured to stay quiet. Sometimes I feel almost forced into agreeing just so I won't be judged or singled out. Schools should not be a place where students are afraid to think differently. It's uncomfortable and intimidating when you know your views don't match the person teaching your class. Instead of helping students learn together, it creates division between students and makes people label each other based on politics instead of character. I'm not asking schools to ignore important issues. I'm asking for balanced respect in a learning environment where all students feel welcome, no matter what they believe at home or personally. Teachers have a powerful influence, and that influence should encourage open thinking. Thank you.
I'll call our next speakers. The first one is Jeff Long, Alexandra Holt, Rudy Kraus, Rita Menendez, Linda, Lisa Myers. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, we have Alyssa. I'm so sorry about that.
Good evening. My name is Alesso Kolb. I'm a 7th grader at Vista Del Mar Middle School. It's come to my attention that music is a big part of our district. And at this middle school, we're losing one of our best directors due to missing students and a decrease in attendance. And I want to say that because we want our director for our middle school, and yeah, and without splitting and putting all of the orchestra and the band into one big group, that's gonna only create one period for music, which is not okay. And I feel like, sorry, and I feel like music should be divided into the classes, because I was at the honors, right? And I saw the different classes, and I feel like it should be divided and kept as different periods.
Thank you. Again, I apologize about that. Our next speakers are Jeff Long.
Stacy, can I just make a real quick comment? Sorry. I just want to say personally, like, thank you for coming into the room, students who speak. It's difficult to come in here and stand at the podium and express your opinion, so it's appreciative of your voice. And I just want to make sure that staff follows up with all 3 students so we can get your questions answered. Thank you.
Staff will be following up with all 3. And also, just so you know, as a board, we don't engage with the speaker. So it feels like we're not answering because that's policy. So thank you again for all 3 of you for coming to speak. We appreciate you very much. Thank you. Okay, and now we're going to recognize oh, sorry, just kidding. We're going on to Jeff Long.
Hold on, we will call everyone just to have them line up so that we can go. So Jeff, you'll be first, but let's get everyone lined up so that we have the order for the speakers, please.
While I'm waiting.
Yes, please. Thank you. So the next speaker would be Alexandra Holt, Rudy Kraus, Rita Menensis, Linda, Lisa Myers, Bertha Mantergel, apologize for that, and Forrest Kolb. Mr. Long?
Thank you. Superintendent Brown, esteemed trustees, I'm Jeff Long. I teach elementary instrumental music in Dana Point and San Clemente. I'm here to advocate for our secondary music programs. One of our goals in 5th grade music is to motivate students enough to continue into 6th. Across the district, secondary music positions at sites are being cut from full-time to part-time. Teachers are scheduled to split between 2 sites to fill jobs, which places harsh limits on enrollment. Taking middle school music programs down to 1 class containing all 3 grades of band and orchestra at the same time is not adequate for our students. Cutting choir from our schools altogether is not adequate. In high school, we don't coach football and swimming simultaneously, nor Japanese with Spanish, which would be ludicrous. Why then is it okay to do this to our music students? The district's LCAP mentions music positively from an enrollment standpoint 24 times, yet sweeping cuts are being made. We know everyone on the board supports the arts, which we all appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alexandra Holt.
Good evening, board and community. My name is Alexandra Holtz, and I'm a parent of a kindergartner at Viejo Elementary. I'd like to share some information that keeps me up at night. I had this poster made. The local tax assessment for our school district. The approximate median tax assessed value of a home in the Capital School District is $870,000, meaning the median cost of taxpayers for our school district is a little over $12 per year per household. We pay the lowest tax rate for schools by a large measure in Orange County, 6.23 times lower than the next lowest school, which is Laguna Beach. And yet we serve the largest number of students in all of Orange County. When I first saw how ours, I'm gonna have to skip down. We should be putting this on the agenda. The fact that it's not being agendized at all meetings is a travesty. We should start working towards a 2028 bond measure right now. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rudy Kraus.
Hi. I thank that student for bringing up that the teachers are giving their political opinions strongly in class. So what I'm speaking about is germane to the issue of the geopolitical situation that's being discussed in class and led to things like, this mosque shooting where the kids shot up the mosque and, several people died. You guys foment that with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and your fantasy that multiculturalism works. It doesn't. Look at all of Europe. Your silence is compliance. Like that kid, he does music, that's my song. Silence is compliance. There's 3 types of control: self-control, social control, and institutional control. We need to implement psychological quality control.
Our next speaker is Rita Menezes.
Good evening, board members. My name is Rita Menezes, and I'm a parent of 2 elementary school students in this district. I stand here tonight because I love our school community, and because I'm genuinely concerned about the direction we are heading in terms of the use of technology at school. A landmark study published recently in the American Medical Association Journal followed over 3,000 elementary school children and found that higher screen time was directly associated with lower reading and math achievement. Now at school to this, elementary school kids are spending too much time on their Chromebooks, accessing online games, learning to lie about their ages to access some websites. Children who should be writing, reading, and playing, engaging with the world around them. We are handling them dopamine machines and calling it education. I'm not anti-technology, I'm a pro-intentional technology. Bring back computer labs, more pencil and paper, age-appropriate supervisor screen use. Our children need invested, supported human beings, far more than they need another.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Linda.
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm a para 4 at ATP, and I'd like to address you regarding the Classified Employee Summer Assistance Program. As was previously said at one of these board meetings, it's not something that needs to be negotiated. However, HR wants to negotiate inclusion in this by decreasing our raises. This seems contradictory to me. Anyways, if you would consider adopting this, this would help a lot of classified employees so that they wouldn't have to go to food banks during the summer. It also might make it easier to hire people, and you wouldn't have as many people open classified positions. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Lisa Myers.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to address the hypocrisy of the school board majority. Trustees Davis and Balakas both kowtowed to a social media prevaricator who posted recently that a person who made an assassination attempt on the president was a teacher, which is false, and then linked this to California teachers and said, these are the people in California teaching your children. Pull your kids out of these indoctrination camps. Should somebody who is overtly hostile toward teachers and explicitly slandered them in a public forum be appointed to anything related to our school district? Yet that is exactly what Trustee Balakas did. One of our incredible CUSD teachers at Marco won Orange County Teacher of the Year award, and who showed up for the photo op? Our school board majority. Privately, they seem to approve of teachers being called indoctrinators, but publicly, they are ready for the photo op. Hypocrisy. I will end on this note. The world watched with pride as the Artemis crew flew around the world. They got their education from public schools.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bertha Mantarola.
Good evening, school board members and district leadership. I'm here tonight to respectfully ask you to reconsider the proposed changes to the music program at Vista Del Mar Middle School. Combining students of all grades and skill levels into one band or orchestra class will not properly support either beginners or advanced students. They each have different learning needs and deserve instruction that helps them grow and succeed. Music education provides so much than just learning an instrument. It builds confidence, discipline, teamwork, creativity, and real human connection. In my own family, music has had an incredible positive impact. I also want to recognize music director Ashley Bowman for the amazing work she has done. She has truly inspired and supported these students, and we would love to see her continue next year. Please protect the integrity of this program and preserve the current structure of separate classes by grade and skill level. Thank you so much.
Our last speaker is Forrest Kolb.
Hi, my name is Forrest Kolb. I've got 3 boys that have come up through Vista Del Mar. We've had an incredible experience, so grateful. Every day we're saying how grateful we are as a family. You've heard from Alesso Kolb, who spoke here earlier. He has a twin brother in 7th grade and an older brother in 8th grade. All 3 of them have came up through the music program. I've been involved with public schools in California, private schools. The program that these kids have come through is, we've never seen anything like this. They've all also been involved with the CUSD honors program, honors concert, in another incredible program. Whatever you guys can do, and what we've heard as parents is that it's up to Ms. Geiger, the principal, and the team there. If there's any support you guys can give to keep the program the way it is, you don't want to mess with it. It's been incredible. We've heard through the grapevine that it had to do with attendance numbers, but when the parents spoke amongst each other, something's not adding up. So we'd like to know, what is the attendance threshold to keep the program the way it is? We want to go verify those numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our speakers.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to speak, each of you tonight. Thank you. Okay, and now we're going to recognize our student board member, Hanson, to present her comments.
Good evening, everyone. I won't be too long because I know one thing I've learned is we like to keep our meetings short if we can. So but there are some things I want to say about the experience that I have had being able to be the student board member. It's been such a great experience. So, over this past school year, it has truly been one of the greatest honors of my life to serve as the Capistrano Unified School District student board member. When I first stepped into this role, I knew I would learn a lot. What I did not fully realize was just how much I would come to appreciate the incredible people who make our district what it is. I entered into this position excited to represent students, but I leave it with a much deeper understanding of the care, effort, and collaboration that goes into creating a successful school district. Over the past year, I've had the opportunity to see behind the scenes, to watch district administrators, teachers, staff members, parents, and students work tirelessly to create opportunities and support success for every student. I've seen firsthand how policy decisions are made, how carefully challenges are considered, and how committed this district is to listening, improving, and constantly striving to do what is best for students. I've watched administrators actively seek student voices through opportunities like ASB presidents' meetings and the Superintendent's Student Advisory Council. I've seen leaders ask students what matters to them and genuinely work to make our schools better because of that input. That willingness to listen says a lot about the kind of district CUSD is. Like any district, we have areas where we continue to grow and improve, but I can confidently say this: Capistrano Unified is pretty amazing. Programs like College and Career Advantage, career technical education, counseling and guidance services, athletics, arts, and so many other supports help prepare students not only for where they are today, but for where they are going tomorrow. This district invests in students' futures while supporting them in the present. It recognizes that every student has different talents, different goals, and different paths to success. What makes CUSD exceptional is not any one program or initiative, it is the people. It is the involved students who care deeply about their campuses and communities. It is dedicated parents who support schools in so many ways. It is teachers who go above and beyond every single day, often without recognition, because they genuinely care about their students. It is staff members who serve with kindness and patience. It is administrators who lead with purpose and compassion. And it is school board members who work hard to represent our families, students, and schools with integrity. When we come together with the shared goal of student achievement and success, incredible things happen. From watching our nutrition staff provide healthy meals for students every day, to seeing counselors support students through difficult moments, to watching teachers stay long after school to help students succeed, I've witnessed countless examples of why this district is as strong as it is. I've also seen our superintendent invite students to ask difficult questions, share honest perspectives, and engage in meaningful conversations about how we can continue improving our schools. Those moments remind me that student voices truly matter here. This experience has also reminded me of something deeply important. Being involved in your community matters. It makes a difference. Leadership is not just about holding a title, it's about showing up, listening, serving others, and trying to leave things better than you found them. This opportunity has inspired me to stay involved wherever life takes me and continue finding ways to serve others throughout my life. As I prepare to attend Brigham Young University this summer, then serve as a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints beginning this fall and later return to study nursing, I know I will carry the lessons from this experience with me. I will carry the examples of leadership, service, teamwork, and dedication that I have seen throughout the district. I've done my best to represent the voices, achievements, and successes of our students, though there were always more accomplishments that couldn't ever fit into the meeting agenda. It has been an honor to share even a small part of what makes our students so remarkable. Our students are intelligent, talented, resilient, and incredibly capable, and I have loved every opportunity to advocate for them. Thank you to the Board of Trustees, district leadership, administrators, teachers, staff, parents, and students for trusting me with this opportunity. Thank you for welcoming me, supporting me, and allowing me to learn from all of you. I will never forget this experience or the people who made it so meaningful. Capistrano Unified School District is great because the people who make up this district are committed to making it great. That commitment is what makes the difference, and that is truly something special. Thank you.
Addison, we'd like to just take this moment on behalf of the board and tell you how much we appreciate your work, your effort, your time to listen to students, to be a light and an example to the students in CUSD. You took this to the next level and really worked hard to represent students in our district, and we appreciate that. You attended Chaparral Elementary School, Ladera Ranch Middle School, and you're going to be graduating as valedictorian from San Juan Hills High School. And it is remarkable, the work that you've done. And as you start to prepare to serve a mission and attend BYU, you'll take the things that you've learned in the district and go forth to serve, right? I hear you saying that you want to continue and what you've learned by being a part of the community and something bigger than yourself, and we value that as a board. All board members, we serve on the board because we care about our communities, and we appreciate that. So I just would like to thank you on behalf of the board for all of your service this year and wish you the best in all that you do.
Well, thank you very much. It's been great.
Thank you. And board members, if we could please come up front and we'll take a picture together. And on behalf of the board, we have a little gift for you. So do we come down or up here? Down, I think so too.
You're good. Addison, why don't you stand in the middle here? You guys can fill in around her. There you go. Perfect. Feel like you took it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. More. 1, 2. Oh, Chris, yep. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Good job, guys.
At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing regarding 2026-2027 Local Control and Accountability Plan. The time is now 6:31 p.m. Mrs. Swanky, do we have any speaker cards for the public hearing?
We have none.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. The time is 6:31 p.m. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing regarding the 2026-2027 proposed budget adoption. The time is now 6:31 p.m. Mrs. Swanky, do we have any speaker cards on this item?
There are none.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed and the time is still 6:31 p.m. We'll be moving on to item 12A, 2026-27 Local Control Accountability Plan. It's an information item only and no board action is necessary. I'd like to recognize Greg Merwin, Associate Superintendent, to present the item.
Thank you to President Davis and trustees. Staff presents item 12A, 2026-2027 Local Control and Accountability Plan. This is an informational item where we present the proposed 26-27 LCAP, which will be the third year of a 3-year plan. We will return to present the LCAP for your consideration at the June 10th, 2026 board meeting. Dr. Gomez joins me to support the item. We're available for any questions.
Trustees? Okay. May I have a... Yep, information only. So we'll move on to 12B, proposed budget adoption. This is an information item only. No board action is necessary. I'd like to recognize Deputy Superintendent Clark Hampton to present the item.
Thank you, President Davis, trustees. So I'm going to introduce Philippa Townsend, Assistant Superintendent for Fiscal Services. This is her second to last board meeting of her career. And I think I'm going to have her move on to the presentation, but I think she's going out on a high note, which is nice. It's always good. So it would be, yes, yeah, that must be it. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to her to provide the May revise impacts on our budget.
So good evening. So this will be the initial presentation of the 26-27 budget. And as you might have heard, we just had a May revise. And so a lot of what I've written in here is now outdated. So this is going to be the initial presentation. And on the June 10th, you will see an updated budget, which will include the components of the May revise. So these are the assumptions that we used when preparing the initial budget. And of course, at that point, we only had the governor's January proposal. So those are the assumptions that are in here. We included the enrollment numbers, the attendance rate that we expect, which is the same as this year, 94.5% attendance. And it continues to assume declining student enrollment. This is a continuation of the assumptions that we used. It includes the rates we use for CalPERS and CalSTRS, the retirement rates, and it also includes the proposal that was made in January for increased special education funding. Now, this is also outdated, but at that point, the governor was proposing an increase in special education funding, so we did include that. We did not include any one-time funds that were proposed in January because that's what we always do with the budget adoption, because when the legislature continues to negotiate the adopting the state budget, they will often change that number. So we don't include it at this point. So when we prepared this slide, we did know the final COLA number, 2.87% for 2026-27. The piece that was missing was the revised COLAs for the out years, 27, 28, 28, 29, 29, 30. And because we didn't know those, we didn't include the 2.87% in this current budget, because you could increase the current year budget, but then, or the 26-27 budget, but then 27-28 could end up being lower. So those will all be included in the budget on June 10th. This is our fund balance chart that we show you so that you can see where we're headed. And at this point, we're deficit spending, And we do have a positive budget to present to you. We are above the 2% in all 3 years of the multi-year projection, which is the part outlined in black, 26, 27, 27, 28, and 28, 29. So again, there's no higher COLA in this presentation, no one-time funds or any other impacts of the May revise. This is a chart that shows you how most districts looked prior to the pandemic and what the attendance rates were at the different levels of districts, because usually you have higher attendance at elementary districts than you do at high school districts. And you can see where the unified districts were, which is the bars in green on the end there. And both before the pandemic and after the pandemic, CUSD has consistently had rates higher than other districts. So that still continues, but we still have room to grow back to where we were prior to the pandemic. This is a comparison of growing districts and declining districts. And the declining districts are typically larger districts down in the south of the state, and the growing districts tend to be up north. The growing districts aren't growing as fast as the declining districts are declining. So overall, the state is declining in student population. And the interesting part about that is I heard today that the COLA augmentation that we got at the May revise, the reason they were able to give that as ongoing funds to augment the LCFF is because they are saving money because we are declining in enrollment in this state.
Just to kind of put it on there, and I talk to parents about this all the time, the state has 1 million less students ages 0 to 17 than it did at its peak. And people ask where they went, they grew up. They're all now 18 and older, right? So there is some emigration away from the state, but the birth rate is just really low. So there's 1 million fewer 0 to 17-year-olds in our own area. The birth rate is about 1.4. 2.1 is to keep the population the same size. So we have a very low birth rate. We have a few thousand less babies born every year in our area than we did during our peak. So we talk about declining enrollment. It's always nice to just put the context of the reason is the kids grew up and there weren't kids born behind them to replace them in our systems.
So nearly 40% of all the school districts in the state are now declining in enrollment, and therefore they're also deficit spending because it's hard to catch up with the decline in enrollment. You're constantly having to reduce your spending every year. And that combined with the loss of the one-time funds from the pandemic, a lot of districts were in a really bad situation just prior to the May revise, so maybe that was an incentive for giving extra money. So as you can see, all levels of districts are declining, but for some reason, high school districts seem to do a little better than other districts. So maybe because they get more money per student than the other districts.
Yeah, and it's also, again, part of the demographics. We talk about it locally. The high school kids are 14 to 18. 14 to 18 years ago, the birth rate was higher. So they are bigger recruited classes of kids. They will eventually be dealing with what we're dealing with, but our elementary schools have felt it far worse than our high schools because they're dealing with kids that were born in the cohort 5 years ago, 6 years ago, right? Which was a much smaller cohort than the cohort born 16 and 17 years ago.
So the next stop in the adoption of the budget will be on June 10th, when we present the final budget for you to go ahead and adopt. It will be very good news. I think you'll be happy with it, and we're just doing some great things in this district, and I think it's going to get better from here.
So all aspects of the budget fiscally will be better in June, except the COLAs are about flat, the future COLAs, even though the COLA will be higher, 2.87 for next year. The future years will be about flat, but at least no downturn for us. That's good.
So if there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Ms. Swink, do we have any requests to speak for this item? Thank you.
Luca? You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. All right, good evening, trustee, parents, and community members. Tonight, I'm speaking as a parent in the district, not on behalf of the PTA. Everyone wants strong schools, great teachers, safe campuses, small classroom sizes, counselors, and career programs. On June 3rd, AB 1204 will be heard in the California Senate. This bill is being promoted as a major education funding solution, but when you read the bill, it mostly expands layers inside LCFF formula, increases supplemental grants from 20 to 35%, lowers concentration threshold from 55 to 45, expands unduplicated counts, and adds new regional funding solution if it ever happens. Meanwhile, every district is still dealing with the same reality: rising costs for staffing, special education, and growing operational costs. These are not some district problem, these are California education problem. This is why LCFF created a base grant in the first place, because it creates a cost of education for every student. It's very important to mention that when the bill was in the Assembly Education Committee stated the following, and I quote, "Making changes to LCFF does not increase school funding." So AB 1204 does not actually solve the large funding problem. It restructures and redistributes funding within an existing system instead of strengthening the base every district depends on. And the more Sacramento adds categories, carves out, complements formulas, and makes them more hard to understand, it avoids the real issue. The base is too low. LCFF was supposed to be building a strong foundation first, and then additional support when needed. Stop building around the problem. That's what we need to ask our legislators. Fix the foundation first, raise the base. I encourage trustees, parents, and community members to contact your California senators today and respectfully ask them to vote no on AB 1204 unless the bill is amended to prioritize strengthening LCFF base grant. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee discussion? Trustee Jones?
So Ms. Greco and I have been talking about this, although I didn't know she was going to speak tonight. I think a lot of, and this is sort of for the benefit of the audience, but perhaps some of the trustees as well, a lot of people don't understand how California schools are funded. Even some of us who are involved don't understand it because it's very complicated. There's what's called a base grant. Every district gets a certain base grant for, there's different grade spans, and for younger kids it's less than for high schoolers. But in addition to that, there's what's called an unduplicated student. And unduplicated students are English learners, foster children, and children from low-income backgrounds. We only count them once, that's why they're called unduplicated. For every unduplicated student, you get another small amount. But then there's something called the concentration grant. And for every district that has more than 55% unduplicated students, so more than half of your students are English learners, foster students, foster students, or in a low-income family, then you get a whole lot more. And it was in the beginning, it was sort of a medium amount more, but now it is a whole lot more. It got revised. So our district is the lowest funded unified district in Orange County. Nobody gets less than we do. I think Laguna Beach gets, is it 3 times what we get? Slightly more than 3 times. That's for a different reason, but basically a lot of districts get a lot more money than we do. And there's been some people talking about that in comments today, and I think it's just really important to understand. There's also, we've had the budget numbers for next year. We're still analyzing those a little bit, but, and it's going to be a bit better than we thought. But if you remember in, I think it was 1990, we passed Prop 98, is that right? I forget, Prop 98 was 1986, was it? 88? Anyway, it was quite a few years ago. We passed Prop 98, and that said that a percentage of the state budget had to be allocated to public schools. And for most of the years since then, the legislature and the governor have followed that. Recently, the governor has not been following that, and he has threatened not to follow it. And he keeps saying, we're not going to give you the full Prop 98 amount, but we'll pay it back to you eventually. I don't think we've seen that money. Once again this year, he is not planning to give us the full Prop 98 guarantee. And basically, he is proposing to balance the budget on the backs of public school children. That's the fact right there. Balance the budget on the backs of public school children. Don't give us the tiny amount that we would be entitled to under Prop 98. Violate the Constitution and give us less. That was a constitutional amendment. Anyway, I have a short email that I can provide to you, and I have a list of all of our representatives that you can write to. If you would like to email me, I will give those to you. I always say my email address is gijones@capitalUSD.org. I think you can remember that. Please email me, and I will give you information about what you can say and who to write to. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Jones, for sharing that. It really is important, and it does matter. It does matter when we send letters and emails and make phone calls to our representatives. So thank you. Other comments? Okay. And we will move on to 12C, CUSD Cares Wellbeing Update Year 3. It's an information item only, and no board action is necessary. I'd like to recognize Greg Merwin, Associate Superintendent, to present this item.
Okay, thank you, President Davis and trustees. Staff presents item 12C, CUSD Cares Wellbeing Update Year 3. We start out by saying, where does the time go? Right, it has now been 3 full years since this was approved by trustees. I'm very excited to share the data and feedback and updates regarding the work that we're doing regarding safety and well-being for all students. So in this presentation this evening, we're going to talk about programs, resources, training related to CUSD Cares, the successes and the lessons learned from 3 years of implementation. And before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge someone who's in the audience who has been very supportive of CUSD Cares. It's Mr. Omero Corral, Coordinator of Counseling Services. If you'll stand up, Omero. I did not make him sit in the back, by the way. That's his choice. All right, and as always, please feel free to ask questions as we go. So first and foremost, again, this is about supporting the well-being of our students so that they can be successful in their educational careers in CUSD. Through intentional programs, resources, training that are listed here, CUSD Cares emphasizes and encourages 3 things: positive connections, a sense of school community, and providing frequent opportunities for celebration. This again reminds us how CUSD Cares fits into our larger system of support for all students. This is the multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS. And again, this is about supporting students in 3 key areas, as you can see along the bottom here: student well-being, which is what we're talking about tonight, teaching and learning, and positive behavior. So CUSD Cares is really about the well-being portion of our system of support, understanding that all students require support of some level, that's tier 1. Some need additional support, that's tier 2, and then a few need intensive interventions, and that would be called tier 3. So again, tonight, when it's like, how does this all fit? This is part of our system of support. CUSD Cares is the student well-being portion. Okay, as we finish up the school year, we are now up to 11 student centers across the district. So you can see the ones that are brand new in the yellow shade. Each school continues to develop their own center as a unique space. Students are part of the design process, and they help name the center at their sites. And then Orange County Department of Education and Children's Hospital of Orange County both assist with the development of these centers. And this here is an image of San Juan Hills High School Student Center. And you can see the student quote that reinforces the value of the center. And again, it's about students being able to have that quick respite, that quick break, and then they can return to their classrooms and be successful. This is not about them escaping and getting out of teaching and learning. This is about giving them that quick break, that quick ability to calm down, relax, be ready, and then come back to class. All right, on to our CUSD Cares intramural sports program for our middle schools. As I get started here, I'd like to thank our middle school and K-8 teachers, because they coordinate the program at the school level, and they're the reason that our third year is even more successful than ever. So I just want to really thank all of our teachers for this tremendous success. And trustees, when you visit your K-8 and middle schools, please be looking for the championship banners that are posted proudly, either usually at the center of the site or throughout the campus. It's hard to miss them. So those are the CUSD Cares championship banners, and kids have a lot of pride in those, as you notice as you walk the campuses. Similar to previous years, again, the numbers are showing that we are including more students than ever. As you can see, up to almost 40% of middle school students are participating in at least one sport, almost 40%. That is up from the previous year, and each year we continue to grow that number. And as with previous years, you can see students that are participating have better attendance, they're suspended less, they have fewer discipline issues. We're seeing many positive trends in the middle school intramurals. Furthermore, students who are participating also feel like they're more connected to school. So this question, we'll get more into the other questions in the survey results later, but this question is from the CUSD Cares survey that students in grades 3 through 12 take. And for our middle school students who participate in the intramurals, almost 71% of them respond favorably to this statement: I feel like I am part of this school, almost 71%. That is nearly 10% more than those that are not participating in the intramurals. Pretty important information there to say, again, CUSD Cares is about connections and sense of community. Intramurals are one way that we can help build that for students. So we've been asked other years, and I'm sure it'll come up again tonight, what about kids that don't want to participate in sports? What do we do for students that don't feel inclined to play sports? I do want to share, we continue to work with our K-8s and our middle schools to offer non-sports opportunities for connections and celebration in school communities. So here are just a couple of examples. Jenga and Uno tournaments at Aliso Viejo Middle School, right? So those, again, lunchtime opportunities, kids can get connected, and it's not about sports. At Ladera Ranch Middle School, they have scavenger hunts where they're looking for different things around campus during the lunchtime, and then the best part of it, when they find that item, they have to bring it to an employee and then offer a compliment to that employee as part of the activity. What a great little twist, again, to connect with the adults on campus, to say, I found whatever it is, and thank you for keeping us safe at lunchtime. Right, so those are just few of many examples. Schools have provided many examples to me when I reached out, and I really invite everyone to reach out to your principals to say, okay, what are you doing for students who are not interested in sports to keep them connected? So that is a big part of CUSD Cares. It's both the intramurals and then other opportunities. So again, we've had great success. It's hard to argue with that with the intramurals. And with that, we've officially implemented for the elementary schools a lunchtime sports program. This is offered at every single elementary school this year. This was because we piloted it last year at about a dozen schools and saw good results. So this year, starting in October and going all the way through March, for grades 1 through 5, we offered 1 day a week of structured games during lunch recess, the noontime sports program. We targeted Fridays. You'll recall maybe a year ago, we said, Fridays, there tends to be more absences. What can we do to encourage students to attend on Fridays? There you go. We offered the noontime sports program to see would it make a difference for Friday attendance. And guess what? It did. Now, there are other factors, of course. We can't just say this is the only variable. However, 1.59% increase for Fridays for grades 1 through 5 during this span of time compared to last year's same window of time. Just looking at Fridays, same weeks, taking out holiday differences to really kind of make sure we're looking at apples to apples. 1.59% is not a bad increase. And again, I'm working closely with Deputy Superintendent Hampton on this. Yes, we know that there are other factors. However, this is having a positive impact. It's definitely negatively impacting, double negative. But this is showing great possibilities here. 1.59% improvement for Fridays. We also see too, just in asking for our site leadership, what did you think? And survey results indicating majority of students are participating and majority of students are enjoying these programs. And additionally, then talking to students and talking to principals directly, you can see, again, positive experiences from the students, and also the principals are sharing this partnership with the YMCA has been very beneficial, and it is appreciated that it's the YMCA providing this experience for the students. On to trainings and workshops for our parents and our staff. First off, our parent workshop on mindfulness. We offered a 3-part series, and this was about reducing stress, supporting students with self-regulation, using mindfulness. You can see 50 families participated, and you can see the results were positive from that training. Staff also received the opportunity to have mindfulness training, and this was offered during the summer to any staff that were interested. And we had 26 different schools represented in the training. So 26 different schools of employees came to trainings, and this is really about strategies to support students with mindfulness and also stress management. Good thing for employees to know, how do you manage your stress using mindfulness? And overall feedback was positive. And trustees will recall when this first rolled out 3 years ago, the focus for training for staff was on middle school. Our commitment was to train every single middle school classified and certificated employee so that they would be aware of how to identify students who had mental health needs and how to support them, was to get them to people who could help them. So after 2 years of training all middle school employees, we've now shifted gears, and now we are training new middle school employees as well as our campus supervisors and other interested employees who would like, and it's offered during the summer from Wellness and Prevention Center, and it's also offered during the non-pupil day in November. This is something that we have been piloting for 3 years as well, and this is a student well-being check-in. The concept here, again, is that kids are having an opportunity to share how they feel with a real brief 1-minute prompt that they're asked to do once a week. It can usually be an emoji or a statement that they're agreeing with or not about how they feel. And the idea is that then responses are viewed by teacher, counselor, administrator to see if anybody needs help. That they're not coming out and asking for help, but they are mentioning it on their check-in. This was piloted again at 3 different schools. Families always had access to the responses anytime they ask. And these, you can see the 3 schools that are participating in the pilot. This, of all the things, is what I'm most excited about. You'll remember when we first started, we had no way to measure, were these things working? How do we know if they're effective? How do we know if they work, these investments that we're making? So this now is the 2nd year of using this district-wide survey called the CUSD Cares Safety Wellbeing Surveys. And this is where we, again, solicit feedback from our students, our staff, and our families. It's offered from mid-January to mid-February. And you can again see in our 2nd year of offering the survey, participation remains high with statistically significant numbers from each group so that we know the feedback we're getting is useful. You can see there are 5 categories that are included in the survey. The first 2 that are bolded are the ones that are included in this presentation because this is about safety and well-being. But we did ask students, families, and staff regarding the other items. So I'd be happy to share that data with trustees at another time. So moving on then to safety and well-being. I'm sorry, first we'll start with safety. And you can see overall percentages, first of all, let me say this. Let me back up. What you're seeing here are averages across the district. These are not school-specific results. Every school has their own specific data. So principals can pull up this exact information for their students, their families, their staff, how did they respond? So that's where the real power is with this. But for us, just to see a general picture as a district, it can be useful for us on how do we support our schools. So when you see safety, that's really a compilation or a composition of about five questions. And it's the average of all the 5 questions then gets you these rates. So interestingly enough, for safety, families continue to score the highest, a 92% favorability rating for safety, and that is up 4% from the previous year. You can see all groups are reporting increases from the previous year. And interestingly, secondary students are scoring higher than elementary students this year compared to last, because the secondary increased by 3% and elementary only increased by 2%. And also, when you see how safe do you feel when you're at school, elementary students are scoring a little more favorably at 76%. That's a 1% increase. Secondary students had a 4% increase, but then slightly under the secondary students. But before I move on, I want to point out one other interesting thing that's on the slide. So you'll see staff, 77% overall, 2% up for staff. However, notice when you talk specifically about disruptive student behavior, this continues to be a significant issue at only 49% favorable rating. So compared to the average, this one is significantly lower. This is similar, as I mentioned on the slide, to 2025. So we know this is a consistent issue that we need to address. And so we're already working on resources and trainings that we will roll out in the fall. And we will be reporting to trustees next year. We want to see a difference in that. We want to see that staff are seeing that we're making a positive change and supporting our students more successfully next year. So then the other part of the CUSD Cares, of course, is how do students and staff and families feel like they belong? Do they feel connected? Again, this is 5 different questions, a compilation of 5 questions averaged out for each area. And again, principals have access to their specific data at their schools. So as we're looking at sense of belonging, you can see then families again continue to report the highest percentage. It's unchanged from last year, but it's 91% sense of connectedness and belonging. And then you can see staff at 82%, elementary students 76%, secondary students the lowest at 63%, but also the highest percentage of growth from the previous year. Also, when asked about feeling, if you feel close to people at the school, this is an interesting insight, again, for our principals to really dig in to their students to see what's going on at their site. But district-wide, elementary, 70% saying they feel close to people at school. Secondary, 72%, plus 2. But then when do you feel a part of the school, look at the difference between secondary and elementary. Elementary, 77% favorable, secondary only 61%. We want to dig into that and really see why is that and really get to the school levels, because now, of course, schools have 2 years of data. So what they can do is they can say, okay, specific grade levels, specific questions, they can dig into the questions and see what is it in there that are the issues. They can actually go straight into specific student responses and see if there are groups of students that are responding unfavorably and start to connect with them and see how can we do a better job supporting them? Why do they not feel part of this school? So this is very important for us that we continue to really support our principals to dig into their data so they can see specifically what's going on at their site. But some interesting trends. And our final item to present to you tonight is the Safety Wellbeing Expo, our second annual CUSD Cares Safety Wellbeing Expo is on April 30th at San Juan Elementary. You can see a 50% increase in participation from the previous year. This includes both families and staff. We had over 20 different vendors there and organizations providing resources and different support for families. And we had families from 32 different CUSD schools this year. So across the district, we wanted to make sure we blanketed district-wide and we attracted families from far away as Coto de Casa, Wagon Wheel, way up north. They came down to San Juan Elementary, and across all the school sites, we had a really good sampling of families attending. We were also treated to some great musical performances. Don Juan Avila Middle School Orchestra and the Marco Forster Middle School Mariachi Correcaminos. Gracias, Trustee Jones. She's my Spanish tutor. So they were fantastic, and of course, families loved the performances. Additionally to the performances, we also had Providence come and present a workshop for families on e-bike safety, which of course very critical, and we hear a lot about that in the news. And they sized and gave away 45 free helmets that night to our families. And cannot forget, but we had some special guests at the expo, including 10 different mascots, if you count them up in the photo, and one of them looks very much like a coordinator in the back. It's a funny, uncanny sense there on the left. Anyways, I don't know that we've ever had 10 mascots across the district come together like that in one event. I'm trying to get it confirmed, but I think it may be our first ever having 10 mascots together. And of course, the families and the young kids getting pictures with the mascots. And really, quite honestly, a lot of the adults love the pictures of the mascots too. All right, so where do we go with this for the upcoming year? I want to preface this with saying that we are going to be very prudent financially, and we are going to be very careful and thoughtful about how we fund and what we fund moving forward. And so, starting first with the student centers, again, as funding becomes available, our goal is to make sure every K and middle school has a student center. And as schools come forward with, many of the high schools and R.H. Dane Elementary receive donations and grants, when they support the funding, then we bring all the design support, OCDE, chalk, so we still support them at building their own student centers if they want to come forward with their own funding. We also will continue to develop our intramural sports. We're going to focus now on sports with the highest levels of participation. So we want to get as many kids out there playing as possible. So we're working with the coordinators at all the sites to really focus in on those sports and to use 5-star data to track participation. And a quick side note, looking at the 5-star data, every middle school in K is using 5-star data, and we have over 600 different events that are logged in 5-star data where we have kids logging in to say they're participating or not. Over 600 events across our campuses. So again, far more than just intramural sports. So we'll continue to watch 5-star data and make sure that our schools are monitoring who's participating and who's not. And then finally, I'm very excited about this one. Again, non-sports opportunities through CUSD Cares. Look at this opportunity, the final bullet. Working collaboratively with Saddleback College, we're very excited to offer a STEM event in partnership with Saddleback College for CUSD students and families next year. We look forward to reporting to you the impact of that. We know it will be tremendous. We've worked with Saddleback College and seen other community colleges that are already doing this. And so we have a great roadmap, and Saddleback's very excited about this as well. So this will be a tremendous way to bring more students and more families to connect them and be part of the school community. We will continue then with our noontime sports program. And so next year, based on the feedback from this year, we will continue to offer this next year. We'll be using our Title IV federal funds. So again, strategic ways of using funding to make sure we can offer this across all of our elementaries next year. Looking at grant funding opportunities and different ways to fund our trainings. You can see we will provide parent workshops and summer trainings for teachers and classified staff. We will continue to offer surveys because, again, the data we're getting is tremendous and it's very important. So a little different approach. What you'll see next year is we will be breaking the surveys for students into 2 opportunities now. So we can survey all students, grades 3 through 12, when they arrive in September. So after school year started, we want to survey them how, again, sense of community, sense of belonging, safety, grading, academic support, et cetera. Ask them at the beginning of the year, ask them again in February, so that we can see how are they responding in September, how are they responding in February. Principals can monitor progress of all of those groups and say, do we need to make changes based on what we're seeing? So 2 opportunities to see the data and how students are responding next year. The families and staff will continue to take the January, February survey only. And then that check-in tool that we piloted over the past several years, we do have feedback that it is positive. We would like to offer it as an option to schools, not a district-wide implementation, but if a school wants to use a check-in tool, then we would work with them to provide that option. parents would be notified if that was the case. And then finally, the Safety and Wellbeing Expo, we'll continue to get feedback on what's working, how can we continue to build on it as we look at future Expo events. So trustees, thank you for continued support of CUSD Cares. Again, the data continue to suggest that we are making a difference for students. There is a positive impact of this work. We'll continue to monitor the effectiveness, and we look forward to reporting again to you next spring.
Thank you, Greg. Mr. Swanky. Mr. Swanky, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
We have none.
We have none. Thank you. Trustees? Please.
Yesterday, I had the good fortune of going to Saddleback College for the ribbon cutting of their brand-new math and science building. I'm not sure where you're going to have the event, but
Yes, we're actually using that space.
it's going to be
Yeah,
incredible.
Dr. Rivas is working on that, yes.
Yeah,
Good.
very cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Jones? Oh, Trustee Adams?
First of all, I love all of this. It's amazing. So good. Such good feedback, such good data. I'm curious what kind of data we are collecting regarding the student centers. I think they're called the centers where that the different schools have. Is that data included in the well-being survey?
That is not included in the well-being
Okay.
survey. There is a check-in, check-out log for the ones that OCDE built with us. They created a system that we use to just see who's checking in, checking out. So we don't have that connected to the well-being survey data.
Okay. And do we, I'm assuming we're connecting with all the principals that have those. Are we seeing improvements in behavior? And, you know, one of the issues is that disruptive student behavior, some of the challenges, emotional challenges that students might be facing. That would be good data to get to.
That's a very good point, to make sure that we are very explicit with principals to make that connection to see if that, because again, the student center is not for everyone. It's just for really the tier 2 student needs a little additional support temporarily to make sure they're considering offering that to help them de-escalate before there are issues. They turn into something bigger. Happy to make that a little more explicit. We do hear good things from principals. We hear tremendous feedback, of course. Miguel Hills was the original. Marco Forster, I know they're all using them a little bit differently, different regularity, but overall the feedback is positive.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Bolikas?
So on that note, because some of our wellness centers in the high schools, I think most of the ones in high school are sponsored, maybe by local healthcare. I have 2 schools, Las Flores and Newhart, that created their own, did a fabulous job. So how do we measure then, because there could be other schools that say, hey, we're not going to wait to get sponsored, we want to create this. Because the use is different, but there could be best practices that could be shared. And I do remember when Miguel Hills was first opened, it was very exciting, and yet it was, how are we going to man it, and the hours and all.
Right.
So I'd like to hear down the road how they maybe talk to one another, share, or through you and your staff, best practices and how to help them really maximize these spaces they've created.
Absolutely, I appreciate that, and we do have those principals connect, the ones that have, especially as a new one comes on board, like Shorecliffs came on board earlier this year, Newhart's came on board this year, Ladera Ranch. So the new ones coming on, we're connecting them with the principals on different ways that they staff it, different ways they keep it open, when do they keep it open. It's very unique to each school site at this point, but we will, to your point, make sure we're bringing all of them together to network and learn from where the best practices are.
Thank you. Trustee Jones?
So, we talked about budget a little while ago, and all these things have a cost. For the most part, there's a lot of costs, small costs involved with CUSD Cares. I appreciate that the intramurals, again, it's a cost, a small cost. The student centers are a cost, a small cost, but I think these are good ways to spend, a small amount of funds. It would be nice if we could, as I know we heard at CSBA, Trustee Bolikas and I heard at least that in some of the districts who get big buckets of money from the state, they have someone who just sits in that student center all day, and the student can go there, and we have to find someone who is, grading papers or whatever to go over there and sit. And that's a shame, but it's an excellent thing, and I am glad we are doing it this way. I wanted to ask a couple questions. One is about we have the CUSD Cares survey and then also that check-in pilot. And you said the survey is for grades 3 through 12. The pilots, I think, were only elementary schools. So is that also 3 through 5 in the pilot survey, or are we also surveying younger kids?
The student well-being check-in was actually kinder through 5th.
Okay,
And like the kindergartners would just literally put an emoji.
okay,
How am I feeling this week? Emoji.
okay.
And then it would go up to like a one-sentence statement for the older grades. And so that
Okay.
was K through 5 for the pilot. And again, you can see we're not scaling that out because quite honestly, we've had mixed reviews now for 2 years in a row. And some really see a value to it, and others it's just cumbersome and don't feel like students are giving us a legitimate response every week. They kind of tune out and they're like, I don't really want to tell it. So they start maybe giving less authentic responses.
Right.
So that's why again, it's part of our panorama suite of tools that are offered. So we would just make sure if schools are interested, train them, make sure they're using it appropriately, make sure parents are notified, and then it could be a tool they could use. But it's separate from the larger survey.
Okay, no, I just was wondering if it's the same age groups.
Yeah.
I was talking to a principal recently in an elementary school where they have dealt with these student behaviors that are not very productive. And I always say nothing ever happens in a vacuum. When something's going on with a child, they start acting out. And I know in this school, they work with a certain number of students and their families, because it's usually something going on in the family, and they sit down with the family periodically and talk about these things. And I know they've had some significant turnaround with some of these young people that once everybody is kind of talking about it in the family and addressing it and acknowledging it, the behaviors sometimes are entirely extinguished, if not, at least made better. Do we know if that's something, I've never asked any other elementary principal about this. Is that something that most of our elementary schools do, or just some of them selectively?
They all do it to some extent.
Okay.
Now, how intentional they are with it, I think, would differ from school to school.
Okay.
But that's exactly what we want to build upon, because we know that with the proper training and proper resources, you can meet the needs, again, thinking of the pyramid, of 80% of the kids. With just really strong, good strategies for all students, you're going to catch 80 to 85% of them. So to that effect, let me just share really quickly, too. We developed a discipline task force was formed about a year ago or so, and that's continued on. It has teachers and administrators and district staff on it, and that group has come together with kind of what are some best practices in classrooms for behavior. And so based on that feedback, we're coming up with some different training and resources that can build on what those schools that you're describing are doing. And then we want to tap into some trainings that our staff provide. We don't think that all schools are aware of it. So we want to make sure they're aware of what their options are. And then finally, working with the superintendent, we're also exploring different options, such as through Safe and Civil, to see if there's more that we can learn from different approaches out there in education to support the interactions between adults and students, because that's really what you're getting at, is that interaction, the dynamic between the adult and the student.
Well, yeah, sometimes it's the interaction, sometimes it's just something in the family environment.
It can absolutely be
I remember
that.
when one of my children was younger, he had a friend who started bullying him, and it turned out the father had lost his job and was commuting from some other state and was home every other weekend, and that was affecting this child. In any event, could we go back to slide 18? I wanted to ask something about that. So we see here, let's see, a fair amount of difference between what students are saying about safety and what families are saying. And part of it, I think, is that students, they're out in the world and they haven't realized that the world is not perfect. and adults have realized that. And so it's like, this is really basically pretty good, kiddo. But other than that, what do you attribute the difference between students and families in terms of safety? How do you attribute that?
We really need to zero in a little bit more. My first reaction is, quite honestly, safety, strategics. Adults are much more aware of strategics than students are.
Okay.
And so I think there's been a lot of discussion and a lot of publicity on strategics safety system, and I know that that's playing into some of what we're seeing. Is it the only reason? No. But it is such a significant change in our district that adults are aware of, that I think it's impacting the adult responses.
Okay, okay. And then, let's see. No, I guess I'm done with that one. Then can we go to slide 19, the next one? I guess I had the same thing here, the school connectedness. And is this families feeling connected to the school themselves or feeling their kids are connected?
I can tell you right now. Let's see. The question is.
And while he's looking, I would add, when we think about these things, everyone gets slightly different questions, right? And there's a multitude of questions. So what we ask principals to do is to really dig in, because it might be what students responded to at your school might be different than what they respond to at Greg's school in terms of why they feel unsafe. And again, what students think is safe versus what parents think are safe is different, right? In terms of locations and interactions with other kids versus safe from the outside. But principals can see the responses on every single question. And so, I mean, so can we, but, and they can look in and dive in of like, oh, okay, so kids are saying that, for example, the issue for them for safety is peer-to-peer safety, peer-to-peer interactions, right? They're not scared of someone else coming on campus. They're having interpersonal relationship issues. So now we need to work on that. Whereas parents are not quite as concerned about peer-to-peer safety as they are about external safety, right? So that's why the breakdown is really important for the school to look into how they want it to change, because every school is a little bit different too. It's not universal across the system the same way every place.
Okay, I understand.
Completely agree. And to your question, it is not about how do the students feel. It's how do the adults feel. So the questions are connected. How do adults feel on this campus, for example, not how are the students. So they're not trying to predict the perceptions of the students. And then it's in general, this school promotes trust and collegiality. This school promotes da-da-da-da-da. So they're written that way and not trying to predict what the students say.
All right, thank you.
We can do deeper dives in the future too, break out certain questions in certain areas for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think I'm fine with that. I just, and I didn't realize that everybody might be getting different questions and that this was based on several different questions and the responses. It seemed like kind of a disconnect where students are feeling, 60% safe, and families are like 95% safe. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But I think you're exactly right, that a student might
school.
feel that somebody is calling him names, and that means he feels unsafe, whereas the parent feels like the child is what we would consider safe.
Yeah, and the other part is, I would say that when you look at the research director, former research director, I would tell you that every student takes it. Every single student. Every single family does not. They're all given the option, but they are self-selecting who answers. So what we look at for families, the number matters, but change is really what we want to see, and differences across sites, right? Because there's already some sort of a bias in there by who's selecting to answer the survey, as opposed to students where everyone does.
Okay, thank you.
I just had a couple comments.
Trustee Castellanos?
Thank you so much, Dr. Merwin. This is amazing. I remember 3 years ago sitting in this room and we were like, we're going to launch CUSD Cares, and having conversations about intramural sports and what that would look like in our middle schools. So it's amazing to see data now that we can look at kind of how where we've come from and where we're going. You made a comment about intramural sports, but then there are those children on our middle school campuses who are not engaging with sports, right? And how we have made some extra effort through games or whatever the case may be on those specific campuses. I'm
correct.
wondering if some of those strategies can be used at our elementary school sites. So we have our noontime sports program, which seems to be doing well, that we're getting kids to school on a Friday. But there are those same type of students that are like, well, I'm not really interested in sports or playing, or but I want to be active and do different types of games and things like that during their recess break. So I'm wondering if we can look at more activities that
Absolutely.
can
We,
follow
and
with
we
those
have
students.
reached out to all of the elementary schools, just like we did for our Kates and middles, and they have a whole wealth of opportunities and options they're doing at their sites. So to your point, we'll just keep promoting all of those different opportunities because they are happening across every single school. We recently asked principals, give us some of the examples of the things you're doing that are non-sports related.
I feel like in this room, we get a broad view of the district. Like I get to see all these amazing things that are happening at all of our sites. But when you're a principal or you're a parent or you're a teacher and you're at your specific site, you don't always know what's going on out there. And there's some really great things that are happening. And it's like how we spread
Share
that.
those practices across
Exactly.
schools.
And then other sites can pick up on that as well.
And so we've done some work to share best practices because there are some good examples of that, right? Like, for example, at Castile, they have family members come during lunch and they play
Yes.
board games and they do other stuff.
Yes.
And so as we take cabinet out to visit sites and as people go walk sites with me, we then share that with other principals. We get principals together. That's part of the purpose of sending district office staff to sites as frequently as we do, especially Dr. Stewart and Miss Molly going out and meeting with principals and seeing what works. And now that we're seeing it, and now that we have some data, remember when 3 years ago we didn't have a platform to gather data. So now we can start gathering data and going, oh, okay, so which schools are seeming to have better success? Then we can look at what they're doing and share that with other sites and send those principals over to see it. So that's we're beginning that process.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then just another comment on the data on page 19. We talked about, or you talked about people at this school, elementary favorable 70%, secondary was 72, and then you see that big dip. How they feel a part of that school. That's pretty significant. And I'm hoping we have these conversations in the boardroom, but I don't want the conversation just to be here from the dais and from you, but it would be, and I'm hoping it's happening and maybe it is, but principals having this same conversation over data with their parent groups and coffee chats at their specific sites. We often do very well at data presentations when it comes to student achievement. But we know very well that when student connectedness is higher and a part of our school, or we feel close to an adult on our campus, then student achievement goes up. So I'm hoping that we can set goals or look at individual, every site I'm sure has very different data. And then identifying, what we can do better to have those conversations with those parent groups to get that data to improve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just even looking at the secondary, 61%, remember intramurals, 71%.
Yeah.
10% difference.
Yeah.
So we know already we can start to pinpoint, okay, because we know how specific students are responding.
Yeah.
What are they participating in? What are they not participating
And it's
in?
clicking for those kids, right?
Yeah.
It's making a difference for that group.
And then it's
Can we
connecting with
make
the
a
other
differ-
group.
Yeah,
now.
can we make
Yeah.
a difference across the board with
Yeah.
other groups? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Other trustees? I'd like to, go ahead. Trustee.
Sorry, I had a couple ideas. I think this is really cool, and I don't know exactly how logistics works and funding and all that great stuff. But I was thinking what we had people say earlier about technology, and I like what you said about the mindfulness training, but maybe this year we involve technology. That's a big part of student wellness and stuff. How are we using our technology? Are we using it responsibly? It plays a big factor in social health and mental health and all those things. So maybe technology trainings, assembly, I don't know, what to help students and also parents understand that has a big effect on wellness for students. And then trying to utilize our resources. I was just thinking, I don't know exactly how that would work, but we have a lot of, high school clubs, high schoolers that would want to get involved in helping, younger students with wellness and all that sorts of things. So service clubs, I think also we talked about getting outside yourself, bigger than yourself, that helps you feel a part of something. So if we could do little service activities, I think, at our elementary or middle schools and get some high schoolers who have service clubs involved. I know just one I have participated in is this Arts of Healing Club too, which is to support students like wellness through like art to de-stress, so we could have students doing different activities. And then we have lots of card writing clubs at our schools for service. We send those out, and I'm sure people would love to get more letters from elementary and middle school age kids, less from high schoolers. So that would probably mix it up too. If we could just, I don't know how we could involve that in exactly, but I know that we would have a lot of willing high schoolers to help out. Be additional ways and like additions to those sports and all that, to find other ways to get other students involved in the schools. I think that might be a good use of our resources, and they would volunteer. It would be free, so that might help.
It's great feedback, because you think about too, the intramurals, we have the high schoolers coming to support the middle school intramurals. So to give them more opportunities like that through the clubs and different service opportunities is great feedback.
Love that. Thank you. I'm going to echo both of yours, actually. Trustee Castellanos, you covered so many of the things that I was noting here. Appreciate the data. The data is, and now that it's 3 years, right, and looking at that, and that participation has increased, attendance has increased, suspension and discipline concerns have gone down, and connections and community and celebrating successes. I also would like to ask that we connect principals on the things that are working and what they're doing. And I know at Marblehead, they have parents that come in and run some of the activities at lunch, and they have a Lego club, and they've had a Spanish club. They have a lot of different clubs, and it's ran by parents. And that's a great way to build the community and offer some more options. And I guarantee that's happening at other schools. I'm just highlighting one, obviously.
Yes.
But it would be nice to be able to gather some of that data and share that with principals and share that with the PTA and our foundations. The 600 events using the five-star data, what are we doing with that data? And is it participation, non-participation? Those that are not participating, are we working on ways to gather them in? How are we?
This year you'll recall from previous years, 5-star was not being used consistently. So this year was about getting consistent use of the data, and now all schools are using it. And so we are tracking who is participating in each event. So then by default, we can see who's not. But our next steps next year are now to, how do we then act on that data? What are we doing with it? So this year is really about getting everybody on board, everybody's trained. It's being used across all the 13 schools. So I'll share more next year on how we strategically use that to find the kids that are not participating.
Love that. Love that. With that, where are we at? Page 11, where it talks about the average daily attendance for grades 1 through 5 improved. 1.559% is actually really, really incredible.
We were very pleased with it, actually. I was with Deputy Superintendent Hampton, and we were running the numbers together, and we're like, hey, look at this. This is a very positive impact.
It seems like a dot, but it's not. That's actually incredibly huge percentage for that. So my ask is that something we could consider for Mondays? Because Mondays and Fridays are our least, if those are our days that we may or may not have a few less students.
We did discuss that because we know it's Mondays and Fridays, but there are a lot of Monday holidays. So logistically, to have YMCA do it, we landed on Fridays because there were fewer days that were holiday, non-student days.
Can we add Mondays? Yeah, but the money that we're gaining from the 1.5%.
This is one of the things we will discuss, but as we look at the budget, we have to look at how can we continue to add and add and add, right? We will have a issue where we can't continue to afford it. Not to mention YMCA doesn't necessarily always have the staffing to support as many days as we would like, even if we could afford all the days. So it was one of those, what's the best possible day? Where do we get the most bang for our buck, so to speak? And it was Fridays was where we got our most bang for our buck. We can get the most times that a kid could participate throughout the course of the year. If budget becomes no issue, then absolutely we could explore looking at Mondays.
Well, maybe when we get to 3%, then maybe we can add Mondays. And then lastly, on the piloting of 3 years for the mindfulness, I'm sorry, I don't know what page it's on.
The check-ins probably, the student check-ins.
I mean, when we're piloting in for 3 years, I mean, there may or may not be a reason why it's still remaining a pilot.
Yeah, so we used to have multiple programs. We now have Panorama. It's included in our Panorama contract. So it's available for schools that want to do it, schools that actually, again, we talk about like not everything works at every school just because of the way the community might be or the way the students or teachers might interact with each other. So for schools that want it, they can continue to pilot it, but we're not mandating it roll out because the feedback has been mixed. Some, again, schools, families, kids have been like, this is amazing, this is great. And others have been like, meh. So it's not costing us anything extra. So it's an available option for students or for schools that want to use it, but we're not going to push it out wide.
And
Until we
trustees,
see something
you'll
different.
recall the initial vision was every student across the district would do a weekly well-being check-in. So we have given it time, and we've tried it at multiple levels and multiple schools, and it's just not the best course. So instead, every student having that short survey right, first couple weeks of school, and then taking it again right after winter break. We feel like that's a better way to just make sure how our students are feeling. Are they safe? Do they have that sense of belonging? Better than, again, we gave it a try. It's just not, it's not what we originally envisioned.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was just going to, and we used to, again, have to pay for a contract with another vendor to do it. We no longer do that.
Yeah, and it was the other version that we had was incredibly expensive.
Last thing I want to add is I love the service opportunities, and I'd love to see more of that as different ways that we can implement that, because I think it benefits kids, benefits all. Trustee
Appreciate that.
Bolikas?
Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. Merwin, playing off of student trustee Addison, there are some elementary schools that have dads clubs. Arroyo Vista, for one, they have an incredible following. And as you mentioned at Castile, the parents play. So maybe when principals start to share what works within their own school, maybe they can decide, well, you know what? Even if it's one Monday a month, and they could build out from there, and maybe they get, a parent to come in. I mean, at Castile, when I go to Family Fun Night, they have all these chess boards set up. You'd be amazed at how many kids sit down and play chess. So there's all different kinds of ways. I mean, I've seen at Costco the supersized kerplunk, if anybody remembers that game, pulling out and the marbles dropping, or the huge Connect 4. So there are games, and they don't have to be athletic sports, that could get the kids connected in play. So just wanted to throw that because I
definitely make that strategic connection between the principals. There are a lot of great things going on. We want to make sure everyone's tapping into those best practices.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Merwin.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're moving on to 12D, repurposing Clarence Lobo Elementary School and updating the school boundary. This is an information item only, and no board actions necessary. I'd like to recognize Greg Merwin, Associate Superintendent, to present the item. Oh, turns out we're going to recognize Superintendent Brown.
Yeah, sorry. So I may still call on Greg to present. He's not off the hook yet, but there was a chance, as you know, that I was not going to be able to make it this evening. So Dr. Merwin and Dr. Stewart and Mr. Hampton were prepared to fill in my stead. But since I've been meeting with the community, I thought I would work us through this information only item. We just want to talk about what's happening with the Lobo campus and the merger of Lobo and Marblehead, and give you just a little historical timeline to put out there. In June, you will then vote on a boundary redesignation for the schools. But we want to talk a little bit about how we got here and why we got here and why this became an issue. So there's a thing called Proposition 39 in the state of California, which requires districts to provide space to charter schools that contain in-district students, right? And we have a number of charters in our system that exist on our facilities based on Prop 39 requirements, Journey Charter School, CRLA, OPA, CRA, Ocasa Elementary. There's a multitude of them. And so California Republic Leadership Academy was one of the charter schools that as a Prop 39, we had to provide space to, and for years we provided that space at Ambule Elementary. But it is our duty under the law to, as those schools expand to the limits of their charter, so this isn't expanding beyond their charter, but to the limits of their charter, if the space becomes inadequate, we have to move them and provide them new space through Proposition 39. So CRLA has continued adding grades, as was their original charter. They outgrew Ambule, and so we decided, or they decided, that they needed to be relocated, and we agreed because they were no longer able to fit at the Ambule site given the number of students they had. So what that means is we have to take a look around the district. There's a lot of rules to Prop 39, and since I'm doing a brief timeline, I'm not going to go into it, but if anybody wants to Google them, they can, about how you can offer places and what kinds of spaces you have to offer. They have to be reasonably equivalent, which means they have to have the same equipment, they have to have the same types of spaces that they would get at a regular non-charter public school. They have to be regionally located based on the attendance area and where the kids live. So you can't just throw them anywhere. You have to give them a reasonable offer. And when we looked across the district, one of those offers was Lobo. And so we met with the Lobo families. And as we were doing our due diligence and our research, there was a moment where we might have had to displace some Lobo students, but it turns out we did not. We would have been able to move CRLA to the Lobo campus and keep Lobo as it exists there now. You can imagine that doesn't feel good for a community to have that large of a change suddenly happen. And so we held a number of meetings with the Lobo community. So February 11th, 12th, 17th, March 19th, to talk about all the ways that this could look, all the ways that this could work. And in two different meetings, both teachers and community members made some other suggestions. They challenged us to think a little bit differently about what this could be, and is there other options we could explore? Specifically, could we move Lobo as it is to another site nearby? And so we sent out a survey to ask them what they would like to do. And the community overwhelmingly responded that they would like to consider taking the entirety of the Lobo, teachers, students, principal, everything, and moving it over to the Marblehead campus so that they can stay together and not share it with a charter school. And so we have been working on what might be the fastest school move consolidation in the history of California to try and get this done. And so we've toured Marblehead with Lobo and Marblehead families. We held multiple Marblehead Lobo combining meetings in April on the 16th and the 23rd through multiple times in the evening to try and accommodate everyone, to get feedback and show what it might look like and how it's going to fit together. So we also during that time made the decision that because Clarence Lobo was the name given to the first school to be named after an indigenous person in the US, that name had some weight and it would go with it. So when we combine the two schools, the Clarence Lobo Elementary name will remain as it moves over to the new location. That doesn't mean we're just throwing Marblehead away or getting rid of all of its traditions, absolutely not. The two schools will work together throughout the course of the year with their PTAs and their families and their communities to talk about what does that look like to honor what Marblehead is, honor the Dolphins and still bring in the Wolves and put the Wolves together. I've been told in no uncertain terms that I cannot call it Lobohead, that it has to be Clarence Lobo, and so no Lobohead for all of you all. I had a young student tell me, I think maybe a third grader, that he was going to design a mascot that was like a wolf's head on a dolphin jumping out of the waves. I thought that was very cool. But that will be all stuff that the community gets to do as they work together through the first year at the new location for Clarence Lobo Elementary with the Lobo and Marblehead communities together. So what the board has to then do is talk about, so what does that mean for the Lobo site moving forward and some of the logistics around boundaries and who lives where and who goes where. Obviously CRLA was already going to that site. They are going to continue to go to that site. Nothing has changed other than now our Lobo families won't be there anymore. And so we're going to propose, staff will be proposing that the name goes to the Marblehead site and that we merge the boundaries to create one large boundary. So in other words, if you lived in the former Lobo boundary or the former Marblehead boundary, that would all become the new Lobo boundary. The CDS code for Lobo will go over to the Marblehead site so that, like I said, the school will be Clarence Lobo Elementary School located at Marblehead. So in June, we can talk about boundaries, and we're looking for your thoughts today on anything you might want to talk about with the boundary update. So this is the kind of current boundaries. If you've got the schools down there, you have Truman, you have Marblehead, you have Lobo, and you have Vista Del Mar, Las Palmas, and Concordia. And you can see Las Palmas is like tiny. It's because it's a dual immersion school, it pulls a lot of students from the areas surrounding it, right? It fills a lot from areas that are not in its boundary area. So that's the current Clarence Lobo boundary. The proposed boundary is really simple. Stick them together. You can see that we spent lots and lots and lots of time redrawing. No. But we looked at the numbers, and the reality is the numbers fill the school and are projected to unfortunately continue to decline over time. So it's a boundary that can support a school without being over full and overcrowded. So just a bigger picture of the same thing. You can see that the school is still relatively centrally located in the boundary area. That would be the new Lobo boundary. So we look, obviously, I say we, Deputy Superintendent Hampton looks at all the numbers and he plots where every single kid lives. And so when we look at the new boundary, we go, wow, there's 700 students who currently live in the boundary. Well, 700 might be too many, but it's okay because they don't all attend either Lobo or Marblehead. In fact, 26% of them attend one of our dual immersion programs, which makes sense. Las Palmas and RH Dana are both close. And then 20% of them attend other schools in the district, Concordia, Truman, VDM, right? Because we do have a very robust school of choice program in this district that allows students to move across the district. So currently, in the combined area, it's about 508 students. So 349 of them actually live in the boundary. So remember I said 700 live in the boundary, but only 349 of those 700 attend Lobo and or Marblehead together. The other 159 actually live outside of the boundary and choice into either Lobo or Marblehead. A lot of them from Las Palmas who are choosing to not have a dual immersion experience. So they're choosing away from dual immersion into Marblehead. The site capacity is 546 and the projections are about 508. And like we talked about with declining enrollment district-wide, those projections decline year over year as we move out through the next few years. If people have been coming to my coffee chats, you've probably heard me say many times that we were at 52,000. We are currently at just under 40,000. We're hoping demographically to level off in the 30 to 32,000 students. So we still have declining enrollment for the foreseeable future as this birth rate levels out. And that's hoping that the birth rate stays at the current low rate and doesn't get lower, which would then drop our number even more. So that would be the projection of the boundary. We would not make any changes to the middle school boundaries. It's interesting, so the two middle schools that feed there are BAMS and Shorecliffs. Students from both of the schools choose both BAMS and Shorecliffs, and not really necessarily based on where they live always. So it's very interesting when you look at the numbers. There's a lot of Shorecliffs resident kids who go to BAMS, and about an equal number of BAMS resident kids who go to Shorecliffs. Again, some of it has to do with the dual immersion programs, some of it has to do with friend groups, and because the boundaries have been split, we would propose keeping them that way since the students choose to go to either of those two schools sort of at will anyways. We also wouldn't be changing high school boundaries. We know that that's very challenging to a community when you suddenly say, you don't go to San Clemente High School anymore, you go somewhere else. So we're not gonna say that as a proposal to the board because we think that would be very disruptive to families. These students would all continue to go to San Clemente High School. They've all previously gone to San Clemente High School, so we wouldn't change that feeder trajectory. And again, with the choice process for BAMS and Shorecliffs, if kids make friends with kids who live in a slightly different one, it's okay, they choose to go to the other one. So that would be the proposal for the June board meeting. We would propose to repurpose the school, move the name to the new location, merge the two boundary areas together, redesignate the CDS code to the new address, and retire the Marblehead CDS code. Again, not retiring Marblehead, a lot of work to do to bring the two communities together, but one site, one CDS code. So that would be the proposal. Well, I'm sure there are questions.
Mrs. Swanky, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
We have one speaker.
Thank you.
Candace?
I am the parent of two students at Marblehead. The news that Marblehead may be retired has been a punch in the gut for our families this week. Marblehead has been a hub of our community for 25 years. When we opened, Ole Hansen was closing and many of the families and teachers were moved to Marblehead. There were multiple options for the Ole Hansen campus, but the district gave the community a seat at the table, and they decided together that they wanted the property to stay with the kids of San Clemente, and it became the freshman campus for the high school. At that time, the board and the district valued our public schools and respected the communities of those schools, even the ones who were closing. And you have the opportunity to do that too. Marblehead has gone above and beyond to present an option to open our campus to Lobo, to provide them a home when they didn't have one, and frankly, to help you all out of a very tight spot. And now we need help from you, the people that were elected to support us. The boundary merge is certainly not simple, and our demographics and student counts are not simple either. We need busing. We do not need to wait until the first day of school to do traffic observations. We can tell you now the traffic is not good, and we are moving another 330 kids into the drop-off line. When the school was built at a higher capacity, the Marblehead neighborhood was filled with kids that walked. That is why the neighborhood was built with gates into the school and why the homeowners paid developer fees to fund the school. There are 2 full-size buses already coming in and out of Marblehead every day with a handful of kids on them. We have 50 to 60 open seats on each bus. We are simply asking to add stops on the routes for additional Marblehead and Lobo students. We need counseling. Our kids are nervous and afraid, and after the news this week that Marblehead will be retired, some are now panicked that our beloved dolphin Bubbles has died. We had a full-time counselor this year for 220 students, and now we're dropping to 3 days with 530 students going through the biggest transitions they've ever known. We need resources for branding. This is the 4th time Marblehead has been rebranded, and these assets are very expensive for our PTA. I think we can all agree that the fact that the Lobo campus was given away to a charter school was a huge misstep with our local indigenous tribe and the Lobo family, and Marblehead is now paying the price. Our 2 schools are now working overtime to determine how to honor both of our legacies. We need help to provide spirit wear on the first day of school for all students to ensure that they feel included. We need multiple visual, emotional signals on campus for our kids to connect to our new unified brand. If the plan is to continue consolidating schools during this period of low enrollment, Marblehead and Lobo can be the model for success with your support during this challenging transitional period. Thank you for your time. Our families and students look forward to your response.
Thank you. Trustees? Comments from any trustees?
All right, I'm back.
Trustee Jones?
So I have been in communication with Lobo families and with the Hashman tribe leadership. And from what I understand, they are, they believe that Marblehead school has embraced them. That may not be the case. That I don't know. One person says no. I don't know. When the school was named Clarence Lobo, he was, I'm not sure if he was still alive, but he had been the tribal chair of the Hashman Nation, and this was the first time that a school in California was named for a American Native, American Indian tribal chairperson. And I guess I don't actually remember it myself, but apparently there was articles in the LA Times, possibly the New York Times, I don't know, but it was quite important to them. The family still exists. Many of them live in this area. Many of them went to school in this district. The tribe, of course, still exists, and their descendants are still going to school here and worshiping at the Mission Basilica and such as that. Wherever they're to go, the school name needs a home. We're not going to take it away from Marco Forster. We're not going to take it away from Billy Bathgate. We're not going to take it away from any other named school, any other school that was named for an individual, especially an individual who is actually from this area and whose family is still in the area. But it needs to be provided to a school. My impression is that the majority of the Lobo families are, and when I say Lobo families, I keep getting tripped up with this because I've been talking to the Lobo families, and the people whose last name is Lobo consider themselves the Lobo families, not as opposed to those whose children go to the school. My impression is that the Lobo families are pretty interested in having their name moved to Marblehead School. If the Marblehead families are less interested, I think that's something that has to be discussed with them. But I think that we owe it to the tribe and to the family for whom the school was named to provide them with a school that carries on the name. I'm not sure, I feel like when we name a school after you or your family member, to a certain extent, you're giving us the name, and we can do with it as we please. However, it is a historic name in this area. And the Ahashiman tribe lived from Huntington Beach down to, I think, the Mexican border or near there. And it is something that is important to the history of this area, and I think it's important that we honor it.
Other comments?
I have a
Trustee
couple.
Castellanos?
Thank you. I appreciate us listening to feedback by families, and but no matter what, this is a difficult transition for two schools, and it goes beyond just moving a campus to another site. It's an emotional thing that's going to happen for both Marblehead families and Lobo families. And how can we as a school district kind of facilitate that, right? So there's, the black and white of just moving, the traffic, the transportation, there's all of those things that we need to look at. But there's an emotional component. You're blending two schools that it's going to be a very different feel on that campus next year. And how can we make that a better transition for both of those groups of kids and families? So maybe for a year we look at, they have more counseling support there. I do think it's going to be a year of transition for them. And so we can't just say, the physical movement of a school, but you have to look at all the components of it, and there's a big emotional piece here.
Yeah, and we are exploring the bus route options, as well as do we have empty spots, or do we need to bring another bus online for kids who used to walk to the former Lobo site and can't walk to the Marblehead site? So those are things that transportation is exploring to see what we can do for the year. We are keeping the school with 2 principals for the year. That is a huge overstaff, as well as 2 of many other positions that they have for the year. We also are overstaffing in a lot of areas to try and have more adults on campus than just the 508 kids would normally get, right, for that management of that process. Again, also some funding for branding I don't think is a terrible idea. Those are things that we're going to look at as staff to propose, right, since the plan is to try and make it as seamless as we can, knowing that it can't be seamless, knowing that it is a very challenging thing. And so resources are one things we can try to do to the extent that we possibly can. So we are exploring those things, and we'll report back to the board on those, but they'll definitely be keeping overstaff.
Other trustees? Okay, Trustee Wilkes.
I can appreciate what the parent Candace from Marblehead had to say, and you just touched on it. There's all these logistics, but if we could try to do this as best as we can, it may become then how we approach this. But as a parent of young ones, that logo, that t-shirt, every other school is ordering those t-shirts and getting ready. And it's like, this is something we've got to put in fast drive, because for them to open up the school and not have identity and logos for those kids, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and the reality is they're probably going to have to rebrand 2 more times, right? Because they'll have to have something that we need to help them with in terms of resources to get away in that first week of school, even in the summer welcome back, events that they have to welcome people back. But then they're going to spend a year working together to design something new. And so we'll probably have to support them again as they go through that to get with whatever they came up with as the 2 communities together. I don't want them to have to make a decision between now and the end of June, and suddenly that's the decision for all time, as opposed to having kids come on campus. So we are prepared to try and provide resources for those types of things.
Sorry. So as I worked with staff on the survey went to the community, I want to commend staff on how that happened. I appreciate how quickly we got it put together and how tight and how very specific and measured it was, so that families had 3 options and were able to decide it. We didn't ask about anything else but exactly what data we were looking for. So I really appreciate that. This, as you mentioned, has never been done and maybe never been done across the entire state to have this happen this quickly. And this change and this pivot happened because of the community and what they shared and how they went about it and how staff worked to make this happen. So I appreciate that. And I want families to know that that was because of this very unique situation. This was not a plan. This was not happening. This came out of nowhere. So I appreciate that. And I do echo, and I appreciate you coming to speak tonight, and let's work on getting that support so that we can financially help with that piece on that. And then the other part is, as we're on slide number 9, if we can go back to slide number 9, and over one more to 9. There is the 700 TK students currently reside in this boundary, and I know that there's many students that choose different schools for a number of reasons, right? But I think while we have this opportunity, we may want to look at some of the boundaries. In Area 1, I'd like staff to see if in the
Can I switch to the bigger picture of the boundary?
Sure.
There we go. That way.
So could the area in the Marblehead boundary, north of Vista Hermosa and west of Camino Veracruz, it's the reserve. So right now, the reserve community, it's 4 different areas, north, south, east, and west, is made up to the reserve community. And they're 4 different gated communities, but they're all called the reserve. So Veracruz, a major thoroughfare, and Hermosa is where those 4 communities lie.
This zone, I believe, is the reserve.
So there is a section that is part of Truman, and there's a section that is part of Marblehead Elementary Schools. So what I'm asking is that we take the reserve south and the reserve west, and we look at bringing those and just look at how we can better align those so that we could have that reserve community. It's like taking Talega and taking 3 of those communities in there and bringing them over to Truman. Doesn't make sense. So this has been questions for many, many years. So to be looked at possibly being moved over to the Truman-Benedict boundary. And then Area 2, down in this bottom section, down that section right there. Could the area in the Clarence Lobo boundary west of the 5 freeway, south of Avenida Del Mar, north of Trafalgar, as Dr. Brown is circling right down there, be looked at possibly being moved into the Concordia boundary? Because again, that's an area that many families have been asking me about these 2, why this? So while we are working on boundaries and knowing that number at 700, that will take that down closer to the number that are in that area. So I'd like staff to look at those.
So staff in June can bring back a number of proposals for the board to consider. Obviously, this would be one of them. Another one would be looking at what would be the impact on student residence patterns and attendance patterns if those 2 areas you just delineated were boundaried to different schools. What would be the long-term impact on Marblehead? I would add, though, that I did, as I worked with the Lobo and Marblehead communities, I did promise I wouldn't make any of them switch schools if they didn't want to, right? So
for sure.
So
Not a
we would be
chance.
talking about boundaries for future students, right? Any student who currently is a Lobo Marblehead student goes in, as
100%.
well as any of their future siblings. We would boundary them to their current school, Lobo, because that's what we told them we would do, and we want to stay consistent with that. But we can look at what that would look like for future, and then the majority of the board can vote on it at that point. We'll give you a couple. We'll probably produce 3 options. One like this, one if you move one or the other of the areas, and then one if you actually were to relocate both areas to other schools.
And then obviously also when you're looking at that, then realign it to BAMS and Shore Cliffs.
We could look at that too. Again,
Right.
I'll bring the data
Look
on
at
how
it.
the kids
That's right.
transition.
I just want staff to look at it. Thank you.
It's Clark and his magic map, that big screen in his office. Because when we had to redistrict for trustees, that all had to be considered.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we'll be able to
it's a
plot where
numbers
every
game.
kid actually in those areas lives and where they currently attend, and so we can actually tell you that'll be this many families who would be boundaried here or there, moving in the future, as we look at projections.
Maybe it would help with busing.
Trustee Davis, I mentioned in a note to staff that, and I'm not as familiar with this area as you are, of course. I mentioned the possibility of putting the part of the Lobo, current Lobo boundary that's in the BAM's boundary, put it in the Truman boundary. And one of the reasons is I felt that that would, and of course, students can go where they want to go. Pretty much all of our schools have room. But when you take a school, whether it's a middle school or an elementary school, and then divide it up for the next level, it's a certain amount of pain. And this friend is going here and this friend is going there. So I thought that if that on a go-forward basis, if the part of the current Lobo boundary went to went to Truman, the part of the Lobo boundary that goes into BAM's could go to Truman instead of the new boundary, that would.
We can explore that. I will say
Yeah,
it's a huge number of kids, I think,
Okay,
so it
all
might
right.
actually not be feasible in
Okay,
terms of still
all right.
running
Well,
a
never
school.
mind.
But
I,
yeah,
again,
that
I
one's a
don't
big,
know
I
the-
know that's a big group
I
of
don't know
kids.
the geographies. I
Yeah.
don't know any of that. Having been through that with my own family and other families I know of like, oh, my two best friends, one's going here and one's going there, and it's.
So when we come back in June, we'll also bring what are the choice patterns in the area, so you guys can see what choice patterns look like in the area. Because the other lever, again, that can be used as a board to make these things easier is, one is, of course, changing boundaries. The other is changing choice priorities, right? So you could look at, if you live in certain boundaries, do you have certain priority choices to certain schools based on where people are going? So we can explore that in the June meeting as well. We'll bring back multiple options.
Are there specific things that you would do with a community if you're changing boundaries, or is it just, I mean, I get a little nervous about changing boundaries when we're not having broader conversations with these communities. Like, I don't want to make decisions in this boardroom that have huge impacts out there in the community, and then we didn't have any conversations with the community.
Yeah, so that'll be obviously one of the
I'm
things.
getting a little nervous with this conversation, because the board agenda item was just merely to keep boundaries as is, and so that this is the least amount of change that we could do for these families right now, and now we're proposing a big, huge change, and I'm getting a little bit, this is making me very nervous.
Yes, I mean, obviously staff's proposal is to leave them the way they are. We could also talk about an exploration with the families that live in the possibly impacted communities, because we could make the boundary change again after we have a year to talk to communities. That's not a problem. We can reach out to those communities. Again, we were talking about future families anyways. Remember, the current families who live there, we've already given them their promises about if they currently attend Lobo, they could choose to go anywhere they wanted. Most did not choose. Most chose to stay. So we're talking about future families, which means we do have some time if we
I
want to
understand
talk
that,
to them.
but there's boundary issues all over the district. Huge boundary issues. So, like, this is a massive undertaking. I mean, I have families across the street that have to go from a school that are boundaried to another school. So there are issues all over the district with school boundaries, but when you start manipulating, it's like a domino. So, I just want to be very careful.
I completely understand that and respect it. And like I said, we will bring options. I think staff's proposal will probably remain as doing it this way. Because again, we can also talk about choice and choice options as a way to do it without moving boundaries. But you're not wrong. Boundary moves, especially the more you get up into middle school and secondary schools and high schools, have large ramifications, and we have not spoken to those communities. So, but we will bring the options. We'll bring the research for you to see it and to talk about it as a board. Ultimately, staff will just make a recommendation.
Thank you. In the Lobo and Marblehead communities, this is not an easy time, and I appreciate the way that you are working together, Lobo and Marblehead, and welcoming families and working as teams. Thank you. Okay, next we'll move on to 12E. May I have a motion to approve high school co-curricular transportation fees? Moved by trustee Zollinger,
Second.
seconded by trustee Castellanos. Okay, thank you. I'd like to recognize Greg Merwin, Assistant Superintendent, to introduce the item.
Thank you, President Davis and trustees. Staff presents item 12E, high school co-curricular transportation fees. The district currently allocates $540,000 annually from the general fund. That equates to $90,000 for each comprehensive high school to fund co-curricular transportation for athletics and visual and performing arts programs. Since the 22-23 school year, transportation costs have exceeded the annual allocation. Beginning in the 26-27 school year, families will be asked to pay transportation fees in accordance with Education Code 35330 to help offset co-curricular busing costs. Assistant Superintendent Jen Smalley joins me to support the item. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Ms. Swanky. Do we have any requests to speak for this item?
There are none.
Thank you. Trustees? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0 with a preferential vote of aye from Student Board Member Hanson. Moving on to 12F, may I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2526-30, resolution of the Capistrano Unified School District Board of Trustees electing to make Capistrano Unified School District subject to the California Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act.
Second.
By trustee Bullicus, seconded by trustee Adams. I'd like to recognize Deputy Superintendent Clark Hampton to introduce the item.
Thank you, President Davis, trustees. So adopting the California Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act, or CUPCA, to make it simpler, it establishes a standardized cost accounting and bidding procedure for public construction projects in California. The district already performs the required cost estimating, tracking, and documentation practices, so adoption would not increase labor costs, but would instead formalize existing procedures and ensure compliance with statutory requirements. Adopting CUPCA would provide the district with greater flexibility by allowing higher bid thresholds and informal bidding, reducing administrative and advertising costs, and accelerating the delivery of smaller construction projects. The move is being led by the new purchasing department leadership as part of a broader effort to modernize procurement practices while maintaining required bidding safeguards and audit oversight. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Mrs. Swanky, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
There are none.
Thank you. Trustees?
I just had one question about this as I was reading through it. Is this going to reduce, do you think, the competition? Like, is it just going to be quicker to get bids in this? I just worried about that a little bit when I was reading through.
No, we'll still include competitive processes for getting the lowest prices for the school district. So it won't reduce competition for people who would be potential bidders. No, not.
So they would just be bidding against those that are already kind of, I don't know, would you say pre-approved because they've worked with?
Well, we have a pre-qualification. That's not like it. We have a pre-qualification process now already in place. So we're also automating that on our website for doing pre-qualifications. And this would just, this enhances, makes it smoother and a faster process, but it doesn't change the competitive nature of people getting jobs for the school district. And luckily, we have legal counsel here. District legal counsel can answer any really detailed questions as far as the legal aspects of this. Well,
Is there a way we can just get a quick overview on how this makes, how this increases flexibility for lower cost construction projects? I mean, this is not really changing when we're talking about building Rienda or a new school, but this is for your sort of sub $250,000 projects, right? So can we get just an overview of how this makes that more flexible for us?
Yeah. So I'm going to ask Jeff Hoskinson, he's our district legal counsel, to help out on this. And also, a lot of the surrounding districts are already CUPCA districts. They've already adopted this.
Yes, I'm happy to give you that overview. And that actually applies a little bit more to the next item, but these two do go together because you have the first item where you'll be adopting the accounting practices, and then the informal bidding procedures would be in item G. The thresholds that apply under, if adopted, it does increase right now as a public school district. Your bidding threshold is $15,000. You can directly negotiate contracts under 15,000 for construction. If you go above that, you have to competitively bid. There's obviously a higher amount for maintenance and other types of projects or services. Under CUPCA, that would raise the bidding threshold to 75,000. That doesn't mean necessarily you can't implement some sort of competitive process for contracts below 75,000. But under 75,000, you can directly negotiate. These are your smaller projects. Sometimes you need to get them done quickly. It gives the flexibility of staff to do that by force account, district services, or direct negotiation. It then creates a second tier that you don't have right now. It'll create an informal bid process, which is statutorily driven, and you'll be adopting those procedures. It still has all the safeguards. Contractors just have to get on an annual list. They get notice when you go out to informal bid if they're in the categories of work that you have. There are trade journals that get notification. It does shorten the time frame. I think it's down from 2 weeks to 10 days for bid advertising, but that's for contracts and projects between 75,000 and 220,000. That gives you flexibility, again, for those smaller projects, for the district to get those done with delegated authority to the superintendent to award those contracts and get those projects done. Oftentimes, those are emergency issues that come up, and I will add, there are increased flexibility procedures for emergency contracts as well. Typically, under General Public Contract Code, the district has to coordinate with the county office to get emergency contracts approved. Under cost accounting, you're able to do that directly yourself, following the procedures, and it does protect and give contractors an opportunity to still be part of the process. So, and this is a widely adopted process across the state. Many agencies, it's not just school districts, it's special districts, cities, fire districts. Many agencies have adopted it. And I don't think, I've not heard of a situation where anyone has perceived that there is less competition in their bidding, from what I've heard based on the experiences I've seen across the state. I don't know if that answers the question.
No, it's good. And then for the board thinking about, like, right, that $15,000 threshold, there's almost no project we do that's under that number, right? So when you're talking about now having to go through the entire formal bid process for any project over $15,000, that means all our projects that our PTAs want to do, everything has to go through this huge formal bid process and takes a very long time. This would give us some flexibility if we have vendors to be a little bit faster on some of those smaller projects. Again, for your multi-million-dollar projects, that's not what we're talking about here, but your 75 grand and under.
And I will add, there is a state commission, the Cost Accounting Commission, that exists. And one thing they do is what you haven't seen with that 15,000, which hasn't changed in decades. Your services and maintenance was set at 50,000 and increases every year based on the superintendent's evaluation of cost of CPI, of the state superintendent's evaluation. The cost accounting process, the commission looks at those numbers and does change those over time to keep up with. So that their 75,000 will eventually get higher as CPI increases, and that 75,000 isn't what it used to be. So there is a statewide process that looks at those numbers and adjusts them.
Thank you. Can contractors apply anytime to be on the bid
It is
list,
an
or
annual
it only
process, so the district will advertise, and it happens once a year. So you will, if adopted, the district will go out and start that list. I do believe there are some options to do it quarterly as well, but I know at minimum it's annually that they can get on the list, and then it also couples with your pre-qualification statutes as well.
And do they remain on the list, or is it an annual application?
I believe it is an annual application. I don't think you remain on the list.
You reapply.
Without doing it, but I could be mistaken on that.
And it'll be very simplified for electronically for applying.
For sure, the license and insurance. Very good. Other comments, questions? Thank you. Okay, Ms. Swanky, can you please call the roll?
Student Board Member Hanson. Trustee Castellanos.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger.
Aye.
Trustee Adnams.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye. Motion carries 701 with the preferential vote of aye from Student Board Member Hanson. Thank you. And next we'll move on to 12G. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2526-31, resolution of the Capistrano Unified School District Board of Trustees relating to informal bidding pursuant to California Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act. Moved by trustee Bolkus. Seconded by trustee Jones. Thank you. And I'd like to recognize Deputy Superintendent Clark Hampton to introduce the item.
Thank you, President Davis. So as Mr. Hoskinson mentioned, this item, we can now do this item based on the fact that the previous item was passed. And this establishes the district's official CUPCA informal bidding procedures, including contractor list requirements, bid notice procedures, and compliance timelines. It also delegates authority to the superintendent to award qualifying contracts to the lowest responsible bidder, while reserving board approval for larger contracts that require supermajority approval under CUPCA. Additionally, the resolution ensures future CUPCA statutory or regulatory changes will automatically govern if conflicts arise. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Ms. Swanky, do we have any requests to speak for this item?
There are none.
Thank you. Trustees? Is there any flexibility on the amount? I mean, is the 75,000, could we move up a little, or?
We can't, but the state will move it up as CPI changes, right? So before, we've been stuck at 15,000 forever. This, there is a movement up, but we aren't allowed to move it up, right? It has to do with the consumer price index.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Swanky, can you please call the roll?
Student Board Member Hanson. Trustee Castellanos.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger.
Aye.
Trustee Adams.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Motion carries 7-0 with a preferential vote of aye from Student Board Member Hanson. And moving on to 12H. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2526-33, resolution in order of biennial trustee election specifications of the elected order.
So moved.
Second.
By trustee Adnams, seconded by trustee Jones. And I'd like to recognize Superintendent Chris Brown to introduce the item.
You almost got a promotion, Clark. This is a biennial item that we have to do as we get towards election time to adopt a resolution to pertain to the election of the trustees whose terms expire in December of this year, right? So this is for us to take and start the election. So in this year, it's trustee areas 4, 6, and 7 for trustees Pritchard, Jones, and Bullicus. It's a biannual item we have to do for the election.
Ms. Swanky, do we have any requests to speak for this item?
There are none.
Thank you. Trustees? Okay, Ms. Swanky, can you please call the roll?
Student Board Member Hanson is absent. Trustee Castellanos.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger.
Aye.
Trustee Adnams.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Moving on to 12I, we have a motion to adopt resolution number 2526-34, authorization of temporary interfund transfers.
So moved.
Moved by trustee Bullicus. Seconded by trustee Adnams. And I'd like to recognize Deputy Superintendent Clark Hampton to introduce the item.
Thank you, President Davis. So this is a yearly item, and it allows the school district to do interfund borrowing for cash flow purposes.
Thank you. And do we have any requests to speak for this item?
There are none.
Thank you. Trustees? Okay, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Castellanos.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger.
Aye.
Trustee Adnams.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. We'll move on to 12J. May I have a motion to approve the penalty waiver for class size increase in 1st through 3rd grade?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Bullicus. Seconded by trustee Adams. And I'd like to recognize Deputy Superintendent Clark Hampton to introduce the item.
Thank you, President Davis. So the last time an item was like this was before the board was about 9 years ago. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen throughout the state on a regular basis where students are put into classrooms and it puts the classroom over their average. So in this particular case, it was a squeaker because there was 3-4 combo class at Concordia, and they started out at 33, so that's then that's above the average, and then they were at 33, then they went to 32, so they were told, you need to modify the class size, and month 3, they were at 32, but their average for the period of time, they were still over the average. Then in month 4, they went to 31 students, so then their average dropped to 32.3, so they were good, they were below the 33. And then they went back to 33 students in month 5, but they were still good in the average overall. Then they were 33 again in month 6. Then they went back over the average. And there's communication with the schools to ensure that, they don't go over. And then in month 7, they were back down to 32, so their overall average was 32.4 students, which rounds down, which is good. And then in the final 8th month, they were back at 33 students, and it averaged at 32.5, and they rounded up, the state does, to 33, so they were at the beyond the class size maximum. The good news with these types of things is the state has a shall approve on the waivers from the state, but it's really meant to prevent really egregious issues with class sizes. But for things like this, the waivers are typically approved.
So are you saying that we were aware of it, but it was really unavailable? I mean, unavoidable?
But I don't know.
Pause for just one moment. Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
There are none.
Thank you. Continue, Trustee Belikas.
Yeah, the first of all, the principal is aware that there was a mistake made, and there was a misunderstanding too, that because it's a 3-4, there are different rules for 4th grade than there are for 3rd grade. We remind principals every single year of this. There's regular work with staffing to make sure you don't stop it at a 34 for a 4th grade, and it's staffed as a 3rd grade because of the 2 different rules. This was a mistake. We've already addressed it with the principal. And we're also looking at our systems to say, how can we get more eyes on this at the district level to be monitoring 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks into the school year to avoid this from happening. So again, it doesn't happen very often, but we cannot have this happen. And so we're looking at our systems.
It doesn't happen very often, but as I'm talking to my principals, it's going to happen in terms of combo classes even more next year. So it would be good for us to put out the reminder to those ahead of time before they head them on.
Trustee Bullock, is to your point, I think now that we are back to pre-pandemic levels, we haven't had this issue for many years, and now we're back to pre-pandemic levels. We need to be very careful and cautious with our staffing. So we are making sure we'll continue to remind principals and make sure our systems where we have the checks and balances at our level to say, hey, principal, heads up. You're managing this like it's a 4th grade. You cannot. It must be handled as a 3rd grade.
Thank you. Other trustees? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Move on to 12K. We have a motion to approve the declaration of need for fully qualified educators 2026 to 2027.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Jones. Seconded by Trustee Zollinger. I'd like to recognize Bob Presby, Associate Super. Well, I saw Zollinger. She was a little bit first and her microphone was not on, but I'm happy to make the adjustment. Okay, thank you. I'd like to recognize Bob Presby, Associate Superintendent, to introduce the item.
Thank you, President Davis and trustees. Staff presents item 12K, the declaration of need for fully qualified educators. This is an annual item we bring. This is a requirement for the district to hire teachers in the 26-27 school year on short-term staff permits or emergency credentials in the event a highly qualified teacher is not available. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Ms. Swanky, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
There are none.
Thank you. Trustees?
Question, when we say hire because we don't have someone qualified, is that on a temporary status? Or are we talking about for the school year?
They would have a temporary contract for the school year, and then we would look if the person were to get fully credentialed. Usually they're wrapping up their credential in one of our special education specialist positions. Once they were able to fully complete their credential, then they can move into a probationary and permanent job.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Moving on to 12L. We have a motion to waive the second reading and approve the first reading, Board Policy 4119.21, 4219.21, 4319.21, Professional Standards. Moved by Trustee Adams.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Zollinger. And I'd like to recognize Bob Presby, Associate Superintendent, to introduce the item.
Thank you, President Davis and trustees. Staff presents item 12L, first reading of Board Policy 4119.21, 4219.21, and 4319.21, professional standards. This policy was last updated in 2023. The proposed changes meet the requirements of Senate Bill 848, which is related to student safety. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Ms. Swinkie. Do we have any requests to speak on this item?
There are none.
Thank you, trustees. Trustee Jones?
Yes, I had sent in a comment to staff about some of the wording, and staff agreed that it was clearer to say, using district equipment or communications devices for personal purpose while on duty, except in emergency or during scheduled work breaks, or for personal necessity. I just thought it was a little bit clearer. What?
Trustee Jones,
Oh,
point of
I'm
order,
sorry.
will you let us know where you're at?
You know what, I don't keep a board book, so I don't know where it is.
Can I pass you mine? Or share it?
Okay, it's the new number 13.
Can you read it again, the correction?
Okay. Using district equipment or communications devices for personal purposes while on duty, except in an emergency or during scheduled work breaks or for personal necessity.
So you just added "or" after emergency?
Oh, no, wait a minute. That's,
And you worked with staff and it was grammatical?
it's not a grammar thing.
Okay.
You know what, at this point, I'm lost. Sorry?
Exactly.
It did change the content, but now I think I'm lost. I'll come back. Go ahead. Go ahead, yes.
I had sent in a question in regards to number 16, wearing inappropriate attire. What policy would then we be able to know what is inappropriate attire?
That is a good question. So in this case, when we look at inappropriate attire, it usually refers to something that would be related to safety. So if an employee was wearing something that could cause themselves harm or a student harm, that's where we would look at for inappropriate attire.
So if they worked in a machine shop and they had long sleeves or
Yeah.
something to that effect,
We
is
would
what you're saying?
that would be inappropriate.
Okay.
Or a chemistry teacher in flip-flops, right, because of the chemicals.
You need
That would
closed-toe
be
shoes.
Yes, you need closed
Okay, thank you.
And would that information be in an AR? Is this broad enough?
We
that it
don't
will now
specify it out except in specific jobs, our maintenance and our food service. So for teachers, we don't have specifics. But as Dr. Brown mentioned, some of our positions do require appropriate footwear, just as the students are required when they're doing labs. And PE would be another example.
Thank you.
I think the suggestion that trustee Jones was making on the item was to remove or strike the line "or for personal necessity." Just to be clear that they can not use district equipment or communications devices for personal purpose, except in an emergency or during scheduled work breaks.
Go back up. Up is number 13, I
Number
think.
13. Right, so the line "or for personal necessity," the suggestion was to strike "or for personal necessity," right? Because we wouldn't want to say you can use it for personal necessity during duty or doing other stuff.
Right, because personal necessity can be anything.
Yes, so
And it just seemed to me, I mean, why would you be using it if it wasn't necessary? But then the staff says that personal necessity is defined in contract. So I don't know whether I care about this or not. But I do think personal necessity sounds like, well, hey, I needed this.
Well, I think when they refer to personal necessity would be if you're going to put in a personal necessity leave, something came up, that would almost always follow under an emergency. So it's already covered in the language. It's just defined more that personal necessity and is outlined in the contract what you can declare for a personal necessity, that it may not justify an emergency, but if the employee needs to make a personal necessity notification using our technology, and this is just using our district equipment, which would really be if they're issued a cell phone or their computer, they would be able to justify it under personal necessity while they're on work.
So could we add the line, or for personal necessity as defined in contract? That way, it's clear.
Okay.
Okay.
I like that clarification. You're good with that, Trustee Jones? Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. And all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries 7-0 with the preferential vote of aye from Student Board Member Hanson. I mean, just kidding. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Then we'll move on to 12M. May I have a motion to waive the second reading and approve first reading Board Policy 4119.24, 4219.24, 4319.24, maintaining appropriate adult-student interactions. Moved by Trustee Adams.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Zollinger. And I'd like to recognize Bob Presby, Associate Superintendent, to introduce the item.
Thank you, President Davis and trustees. Staff presents item 12M, the first reading of Board Policy 4119.24, 4219.24, and 4319.24, maintaining appropriate adult-student interactions, which was first adopted in 2023. The proposed changes, like the previous board policy, meet the requirement of Senate Bill 848 related to student safety, and further clarify and expands what is considered inappropriate adult-student action and provides greater safety for our students. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Ms. Swanky, do we have any requests to speak for this item?
There are none.
Thank you. Trustees? Trustee Jones?
I had a suggestion on the number 6. Again, I don't have it, but I know it was number 6.
No, it is number 6.
It is number 6.
Oh. Okay, yes, inviting students to your house without a parent/guardian's consent. And I prefer inviting students to a home or other private location without a parent/guardian's explicit consent.
I don't have any problems with that. Trustees?
Staff agrees that would expand and provide
great.
greater
Thank
safety
you.
for our students.
Yep, great add. Others, any other comments? Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Moving on to 12N, may I have a motion to waive the second reading and approve first reading Board Policy 5131.1, formerly 5141.1, bus conduct. Moved by Trustee Bolekis, seconded by Trustee Adams. And I'd like to recognize Greg Merwin, Associate Superintendent, to introduce the item.
Thank you, President Davis. Board Policy 5141.1, bus conduct, was adopted in 1997 and last revised in 2016. This is being updated in order to address current regulations, safety regulations, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Ms. Swanky, do we have any speaker cards? Anyone to speak on this item?
There are none.
Thank you. Trustees? Trustee Jones? Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We'll now move on to the consent calendar. Ms. Swanky, do we have any requests to speak for this item?
There are none.
Thank you. Do we have any trustees that have consent items they'd like to pull? Okay, I just have. I don't actually particularly want to pull it, but I just was wondering on 13B1, Resolution 2526-32, Transition Partnership Project Interagency Agreement with the California Department of Rehabilitation. Could staff just give a little bit of information on it? Or do I have to pull it to give information on it? Okay.
But you can pull it and then we can discuss it.
Okay, I'll go ahead and pull it. So if I could have someone please move the agenda consent calendar with 13B1. Okay, moved by Trustee Zollinger. Second by Trustee Bolekis. Okay. Mrs. Swanky, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Castellanos?
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard?
Aye.
Trustee Zollinger?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Adams?
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus?
Aye.
Trustee Davis?
Aye. Motion carries 7-0 to approve the consent calendar with the exception of 13B1. Okay. Now, if I could please have a motion for, one moment, please. Go ahead, Trustee Jones.
Before we adjourn, I wanted to.
Oh, we're not going to adjourn yet.
Oh, sorry?
We're gonna talk about 13B1.
Oh, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Would you like to move 13B1? Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Trustee Adams, second, and moved, seconded by Trustee Zollinger. Okay, thank you. All right, on 13B1, it's the Transition Partnership Project Grant, and it's providing transition students into competitive employment. I just wanted to really more like highlight it, so if there's someone could just kind of speak on it for just a couple of minutes.
Yes, I'll ask Assistant Superintendent Clint Collins to share a little more on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually oversaw this grant for about 9 years when I was when I oversaw career prep. So it's the acronym's TPP, Transition Partnership Program. It's in correlation and with the Department of Rehabilitation, and it's a great program to help special education students get employment experience, opportunities to get them gainfully employed, and then it connects them into Department of Rehab. So as they graduate out of our system, then they have Department of Rehab resources for the rest of their lives to help them with job training. Sometimes it helps them get them funding for clothing, and sometimes like if they need a bike to get to and from work. So there's a lot of different great opportunities. It also can get them free education through some colleges if they're going for a specific track. Like let's say they want to go to Stanbridge College and become a veterinary technician, that kind of thing. It could help them pay for the schooling itself, that kind of thing. So we have a TPP class at each of our high school programs, and students and IEPs are able to sign up for this TPP class. They go through mock interviews. They go to a lot of different field trips and job shadow days. They use a curriculum that helps them just build that experience and employment opportunities. And so it's really helping to bridge the gap. A lot of our typical students kind of just move into the workforce. Some of our students and IEPs have those barriers that need to help them overcome, and TPP really helps bridge that gap for them.
Thank you. I just really more than anything wanted to highlight that because I appreciated that as I went through it, so thank you. That was 13B1. Oh, B1, okay. Yes. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 7-0. Okay, and we'll move on to recognizing Superintendent Brown to share any comments.
Good evening, everyone. I want to begin my remarks by wishing our classified employees a very happy Classified Employee Week. This is a wonderful week to celebrate our non-certificated school staff, such as bus drivers, cafeteria workers, custodians, paraeducators, and office personnel. These employees are vital to the success of our district, and most importantly, the success of our 39,000 students. We are grateful for your contributions to CUSD. I also want to congratulate Dr. Wendy Poffenberger, who was appointed this evening to serve as Assistant Superintendent Fiscal Services, and to Shirley Poster, appointed to be the new principal for Concordia Elementary School, both effective July 1st, 2026. And of course, I'm sure the students aren't counting, but we are down to 10 school days before the end of the 25-26 school year. Staff's not counting either. So I want to thank our students, parents, and community members for all the partnership, the engagement, coming here to our boardroom, coming to the coffee chats, interacting with me in open forums, interacting with in the PTA family meetings, the PTA advocacy meetings, on all the different ways the community and I get to engage with each other throughout the year. They stay involved. It supports our work. It gives us a ton of feedback on what we're doing and how we can continually do things better and more smoothly as we move forward. So I wish you all the best 10 final school days before a wonderful summer break. Thank you.
Trustees? Trustee Adams?
Yes. So I can't believe it's only 10 days. It seems like it's longer than that. But yes, I just want to take a minute to celebrate. This time of year is fun because we get to go to award ceremonies and concerts and lots of things. And our students are doing amazing things district-wide. And I want to thank our staff. I want to thank our principals and especially our teachers. Day in and day out, this job can feel impossible. at times, and we are seeing just the difference that you're making in students' lives. I saw a snapshot of this last night at Shorecliff's Middle School Awards Ceremony. 74 eighth grade students earned a consistent GPA of 3.8 or higher all 3 years in middle school, and there was something around 17 who held a perfect 4.0 all 3 years, which I thought was very impressive. And I'm sure it's across the board. It's not just Shorecliffs, so you don't have to get in competition with me, Trustee Jones. But well done, everybody. And then there were the character awards, the AVID awards, scholarships that were earned, and it was very impressive. Again, I know it's happening across the district. Congratulations to everyone on a really successful school year. The second thing I wanted to highlight is I had the privilege of attending 2 ceremonies recently that celebrated our nation's 250th birthday. I visited Vista Del Mar and want to give a big thank you to Melissa Geiger and her team for taking the time to commemorate our nation's birthday with the students at that school. I loved hearing the grade levels singing their patriotic songs. Student council did a great job planning and executing the celebration, and Miss Geiger and Mr. Butler, you made a wonderful Lady Liberty and Uncle Sam. So I love that you guys took the time to celebrate our nation and our 250th birthday. I also had the honor of attending a 250th birthday celebration at San Clemente High School with the junior ROTC team. Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps provides students with opportunities to develop leadership, responsibility, teamwork, and character through hands-on experiences and service learning. The program emphasizes citizenship, communication skills, discipline, and personal growth while helping students build confidence, prepare for college, careers, and community involvement. Students participate in leadership activities, physical fitness, community service projects, team building experiences, and competitions that promote collaboration and resilience. Our junior ROTC is not a military recruitment program. Instead, it focuses on developing well-rounded young leaders who are prepared to make a positive impact in their school and community. I love this program, so amazing. It's that thing, you know, that it's that other opportunity for maybe kids that don't find themselves on a sports field or on a stage, but they can be part of this team. It's amazing. So I wanted to give a big thank you to the junior ROTC lead, Lieutenant Kevin McMahon. The time and effort that you put toward this program was evident in the students' performance, and the teamwork you've cultivated was evident in the students' camaraderie. I want to also give a shout out to Cadet William Grant, who sang the national anthem, and the battalion commander and orator, Cadet Lillian Alexander. You gave a wonderful, heartfelt speech. This is such an impressive program, offers so many great opportunities for students to grow in all aspects of our vision of a CUSD graduate. So well done, everybody. And that's it for me.
Mr. Bulkus?
Just real quick, I want to give a shout out to some faves that are retiring from Newhart this year. Rosemary Leone and AP principal or assistant principal Todd Oman, who has worked for this district for a very long time. And to Mr. Stan Aube, who I always credit to getting my son Teddy to try new things. He would bring food in that was like of different ethnicity and unusual that my son didn't get at home. And he would always try it. And at home, when I tried to get him to try new things, he wouldn't do it. And so I always used to say, do I have to get Mr. Aube to get you to try this? So to Stan and to these wonderful people, and to Dave Weinberg, the music teacher at Aliso Miguel High School, I want to wish you all well in your retirement. And lastly, there's too many year-end events. It's like my husband hasn't seen me every night. It's a musical performance. It's award ceremonies. Tesoro's got so many awards for those fabulous students. But I would like to share some pictures. I was at the Mission Viejo Mayor's prayer breakfast last week and sitting at a table. And she's had a child in CUSD, but a long time ago, she wanted to make sure to tell me how fabulous the football team at Capo Valley High School was, because they went to the Elks Lodge to clean it. And if you can just kind of go through, this is the Capo Valley football team. And if any of you have ever been to an Elks, okay, stop right there for a second. On the right, that's a smoking room. And they do bingo a lot there. So let me tell you, the walls and the windows just get caked with gray matter. And and notice the barbecue on the left. They didn't just come and kind of clean. They did a thorough cleaning job. Go ahead, and if you'll show the other pictures. The head football coach, Sean Curtis, who's also a PE teacher, had, I believe, prompted this, but she just raved about how good these boys were in really doing a thorough job, and they were so very grateful. So I just want to do a shout out. I had shared that with Principal Miss Huston, that these young men on our football team really took it to heart to help them out and do a terrific job. So thank you, and have a great summer.
Thank you. Other trustees? Trustee Jones?
Well, speaking of Capo Valley football, the Capo Valley new stadium is going to be, the ribbon cutting is this coming Wednesday, a week from tonight, 7:30. As far as I know, the public is invited, and I hope everyone will come and see it. A stadium is to a certain extent a stadium, but the snack bar is lovely. I think I have already shared that the women's restroom has what's like hundreds of stalls, and it's really very nice. We got some good specifications on it, and I think everyone's going to be really happy. What I started to say before, I spoke out of turn. I'm just going to request that we adjourn tonight in memory or honor of those who lost their lives or were injured in the San Diego mosque attack. Thank you.
Other trustees? Trustee Zollinger?
Yeah, I echo what everyone said about the end of the year. There's been so many incredible events, and I feel so much pride for these kids and these teachers and what they've done to get these students to, and the work the students have put in to get to where they're at. So I was at San Juan Hills last night at their senior award ceremony, and it was just unbelievable that it was just a year ago I was there. And it's already another year, and I'm looking at this whole new class of kids with incredible accomplishments, and it's just very exciting. I did want to say one thing about our board workshop that we had earlier this month, and because it is something that's been concerning to me for a while, and I'm really grateful for the work that staff has done to make changes in our technology moving forward. For next year, we're going to have carts, laptop carts for our Chromebooks for kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, and we will be rolling that out over in the upcoming years to have them throughout elementary school, and I think that's a great step forward. And I also want to acknowledge the teachers who, how we got here and how COVID switched everything, and how all of the kids had to be equipped with Chromebooks, and how they adjusted to that, and how grateful I am for what they did and the time that they did. So it's not to badmouth all technology, that saved us during that time. So I'm really grateful for it, but I'm also really grateful that we're back in the classroom and we're scaling back. We're doing something to scale back, and I love seeing that work. And I'm looking forward to working with Trustee Castellanos and probably other trustees as well with just screen time, just taking it a step further and having, working towards hopefully like a really solid policy that will help us down the road, that will help us just have designated times that our kids can be on screens. It's going to take some time because we want to talk with teachers and make this a very thoughtful, well-researched policy, but the work is being done, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you to the teachers. Thank you for all the adjustments that you've done over the years, and looking forward to having some just clear guidance on that moving forward. But thank you.
Thank you. Trustees? Okay. This is a time of celebration. It's the end of the year. It's wrapping up the entire year, and it's busy. It's exciting. Awards, productions, achievements, senior awards, 8th grade awards, elementary awards, all of it. It's fun, it's exciting, it's wonderful. So I appreciate all the work that staff, teachers, everyone across the district has done in every way. And just a couple of things, the outdoor production of Grease, we don't have the opportunity to have a theater in which we can house enough people to watch a production. So once a year, they spend a ton of money and have a production outside, and Grease was fantastic. Boys tennis finished the CIF finalists, and girls softball is in the quarterfinals today. 22 student athletes signed their letters of intent recently, and that's just a little pinch at San Clemente. And then I wanted to share a little bit about some of the things that are happening with CCA. 75 HOSA students represented 3 CUSD high schools, competed at the California State HOSA Conference in April, and had a student qualify to compete at the International Conference, which will be held in June in St. Louis. Viral Enterprise team was extremely successful this year and was able to send a team to the 2026 Youth Business Summit in New York City. Included 4,000 students representing 160 schools across 18 states. We didn't place, but we did well, and it was a super successful endeavor. And the team was called Benefits, and it's a company that designed a dirty soda. The first robotics team did very well this year. They were one of the top 60 teams in all of Southern California to advance to the district championship. And out of that, top 20 teams ultimately qualified for the world championship. Team 5199, Trustee Bullock's favorite, qualified to compete at the world championship in Houston, Texas. Biggest accomplished in this world was that we had 830 pathway completers in CUSD. That's a most ever, and it was an increase, as we're always talking about how we're increasing, an increase of 17% this year. Lastly, we had a successful mid-cycle WASC, and that's just all part of it. But just a little update in what's happening in that piece there. But I just would like to encourage everyone to enjoy these last 2 weeks as we reflect on everything that's happened, and take a deep breath, and appreciate you all. Thank you. And with that, I want to just recognize this list of, so I usually ask staff to compile the retirements that are over a certain number of years. And this, and I often read them, and I'm not going to this tonight because it's 64, but I want to recognize that there are 32 staff members that were 30 years plus, that served in our district for 30 years or more. Michelle Benham, I'm just going to highlight Michelle, but Michelle Benham, Julia Dawes, Lisa Ezrati, Juliet Gerfin, Margie Wessling, all were 39 years. 39 years, it's a minute. We had 20 teachers that were 20 plus years, and 8 that were 11 to 19 years. So just a quick highlight. So thank you for everything. And with that, if I could have someone motion to adjourn our meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Moved by Trustee Bullockis, Trustee Jones, seconded by? Seconded by Trustee Bullockis. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you. And the motion carries 7-0 to adjourn the meeting. The time is now 8:58 p.m. Thank you. Have a good night.